2022 remained a bit of a challenging year for a lot of reasons. A lot of different things going on, especially I think if you're depending on the country that you're living in right now, it's going to be more challenging a year for you. However, this is the vPub, and we're here to talk about whiskey and our love for whiskey and all that that involves. And I think, with that in mind, 2022 was a fantastic whiskey year. Tonight's gonna be a wee bit of a retrospective, and I look forward to welcoming you in a couple of minutes. See you in a second. Hello, whiskey folk. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the last vPub of 2022. What an incredible year it's been. Of course, I'm focusing fully on whiskey tonight. If we get involved in world politics and the situation that we find ourselves in, depending on which wee corner of the world that we live in, we might get a wee bit distracted and get dragged into political discussions and nonsense like that. That's not what the vPub is about. Every year, I wonder what I'm going to title this broadcast. Is it going to be a summary of, like it was in 2020, or is it going to be a celebration of, like it was in 2021 or 2019? Well, this time it's kind of the best of, because I'm not really. I realize that when I'm trying to mix too many things into this, just point you towards last week's vPub, with all the guests and the blind challenge going on and talking about whiskey moments and when you try to cram too much in, it's hectic. Now that's okay. Last week was meant to be a celebration, a wee bit of a party feel about it. I hope we succeeded somewhat in that. But what I realized doing it this year is that there's kind of so much for me to talk about that I wanted to just kind of have safe harbor for the last vPub of 2022. Just have some quiet time. So I'm pretty much running this solo tonight. We will have some support a wee bit later from Menno, who's coming in to do his traditional end of year quiz. So I'm going to have the Menno quiz first and then announce my whiskey of the year after the Menno. No, that's not going to happen. The quiz is always at the end. Of course, it's at the end, but I encourage you to stay tonight. I've been trying to get out of Menno whether it's an easy one or a typical ass-hatty one, and he's a wee bit on the wall. He's suggesting that at least some of it is easier for us this year. Anyway, this is very much going to be focused on trying to stay positive. That's why it's just me tonight. Just keep it positive and focus on the things that we've really got to be grateful for in whiskey in 2022. When I started to plan this wee session and what whiskies were going to be involved, I quickly got myself in a mess. And that's a very, very good sign, because it meant there was so much to talk about. So much to talk about. And if I'm under pressure here to try and whittle this down to just talking about the whiskies that I'm really excited about, that's a very, very positive sign. I'm surrounded by more bottles of whiskey than I think I've ever been surrounded by for a vPub. And that's not because I'm going to review or go through or talk about each individual whiskies. Some of them are just simply visual props, just a quick mention and move on. But they have to be here because they were part of whiskey in 2022. Some of them will be no surprise to you whatsoever, and maybe one or two of them could be a potential wee surprise. Anyway, before I get into any more detail, I'm going to jump into the lounge and welcome some of you. My goodness, knocking on for 250 of you in already. The doors have only just been kicked open. I'll jump into the lounge and welcome some of you beautiful whiskey folk and dedicated barflies. Rick Johnson is here saying, Aqvavitae, a fine safe harbor evening to you, Roy. Thank you, Rick. Nice to have you here, my friend. And Herben is here as well. Good evening, Roy. I am curious. Me too. I was just having a chat with Menno before we went live there that I have literally been chewing on this right up until the very last moment, which is not the first time. And I think that that's how it should be. This should not be an easy thing. The harder it is to choose, make these selections, the better that is for everybody. Circumbendibus, what a name, fantastic. That's the first time I've shouted that out. And he's saying, Circumbendibus, my guess for Aqvavitae's Whiskey of the Year is Thompson Brothers SRV Blended Malt, ? Well, I will tell you that it is here. It not only features as part of the discussion today, my friend, but it's also what's sitting in my glass right now. It's what I poured while I was sitting here chatting to Menno. Is it going to make Whiskey of the Year this year? Uh, I hope you don't mind if I just kind of tease it out tonight and obviously announce my Whiskey of the Year towards the end of the stream. If you're picking this up on the replay, thank you very, very much. It's very appreciated. You will be able to use the chapter markers below to have a wee look at the topics that I'm covering tonight, and you'll be able to whiz through it much, much quicker. Highland Hamish, you star, good to see you. My friend, thanks for the hand in photo, Roy, and for your efforts, both on the vPub and Dramface. Looking forward to catching up with you and others, other barflies in 2023. Me too, Hamish. That was fantastic. Yeah, you sent me a wee request to send you that photo, and I managed to find it. It's not often that that happens, but we'll do a better job of taking a better picture next time, Hamish. Thanks for the drama, friend. Here's to 2023. Cheers. Graham Fraser is in saying, good evening, Roy. Good to see you, Graham. Yash is here. Fantastic. Evening, Roy and Barflies. Can't believe it's the end of the year vPub time already. Time flies. It really does, buddy. It flies very, very quickly. But at the same time, when I was going back through earlier vPubs and topics and notes and my trusty wee notebooks here, what I realized is that some of the vPub topics and sessions that I covered seem like further ago than it actually. You know how usually you like say, "Oh, that was January." It just feels like a couple of months ago. But no, some of the topics, there's a lot happened this year, and I think as we started out 2022, we've become used to trying not to guess what the future holds because of all the surprises that comes along, right? But we could not have foreseen, and again, keeping this fully in whiskey, we couldn't have foreseen some of the things. I'll get on to talking about whiskey trends in a wee minute. Perth Sebastian is here. Good to see you, buddy. Saying evening round the barflies. It's been a while since I was in the vPub live. Perth, your seat is always here waiting for you. And I'm glad to welcome you back whenever you can make it. James McGoran is here celebrating being a member of the Barflies for 33 months. 2022 was a great whiskey year. He's saying, I'm glad you agree with me. Rob Smith, it jumped. Rob, I'm so sorry. Anybody that's ever tried to run this YouTube chat, you just touch it, scroll the wrong way, boom, you've lost all the chat that you were trying to keep up with. I'm going to scroll back up as far as I can. There I am, I got it. Pete had scenes. We keep it positive, so it's me alone. Curious what that means regarding the guests. Oh, there are no guests. Oh, what it means regarding the guests? Well, if I'm in control, Frank, is my point. If it's just me that's speaking, if I don't keep it positive and I fall into the negative and I use it as an opportunity to rant or bang or complain or whatever, which is fine when it's appropriate, then it's only my fault. So if it's me, hopefully I can keep it positive tonight. That's what my point. That's what I was focusing on. Reb is here. Good to see you. He's saying good evening. Reb, I know that you were busy last week when we did the blind challenge that included your whiskey in there, but I'm going to start after a chat to the whiskey folk tonight. I'm going to summarise the blind challenge from last week because we didn't do it in the mess of last week's vPub. It's going to be nice to summarise that. Arnie Tiger is saying another year of whiskey draws to a close. Absolutely, Arnie. And Scott Allen is saying evening, Roy. Happy New Year. Happy New Year when it comes to Scott Allen. Wonderful to welcome you here, buddy. And Lee J is saying good evening, Roy, and all the barflies. Good to have you. And Lee J, Cal Whiskey is saying evening, everyone. Evening, Aqvavitae. And it's jumped again. Greg Watchman, Greg Unroy, that is. Watchman 999 is celebrating being a barfly for 28 months and saying all the best for the new year. And all whiskey botherers, I like it, Greg. I like it. Alistair Gray is saying, thanks, Roy, for another year of superb vPubs. Thank you for another year of superb attendance, my friend Alistair up north. Tim Donnerpass Whiskey is in here saying, you're a true ambassador for the Highlands in many ways, not just whiskey. Treasure the time you spent with me in May. So I think that's Highland Hamish and Tim Donnerpass Whiskey talking about the time that they got to hang out together, which has been happening more and more, which is fantastic, not least at the hands of my friend Peter Lee. Peter is in saying, good evening. Denise and I are watching at work just now. Fair play to you. Can I take this moment, actually, Peter Lee, to raise a wee glass for somebody that we all know, a Lawrence Lee? Can I raise a wee glass of congratulations and celebration? Because he is excited about 2023, and that is looking forward to starting his new career. Lawrence, I wish you all the very best, my friend. You've got two fantastic shepherds looking out for you there. Cheers, Lawrence. Good to welcome you in, Peter and Denise. Good to have both of you here for a wee change. I know that you'll be in and out because you are busy at work. Martin Fielder has bought me a dram to say Speyburn 15, Kuboken 15, Aaron 10. What can it be? I love throwing darts, Martin. Thank you very much for your drama, friend, and it's nice to welcome you in, Martin. Wonderful stuff. Max has bought me a dram as well. Terrific. What a whiskey year. Finally, I was able to meet you and some barflies. Thank you all. That's right. It was the first time that we met, Max, this year. Thank you for everything that you do, and thanks for being a friend, Max. Thanks to you for being a friend. Seriously, that well, I'll hopefully remember to talk about Limburg later when I talk about whiskey moments for 2022. But it was fantastic, and getting to meet you was an absolute highlight, Max Kreitner. Cheers to you, buddy. Mm, it's coming in thick and fast. My goodness, Whiskey Novice has bought me a dram. Thank you so much, Jim. Thanks for the dram. No comment or anything there. Just being a star, I hope. Out there in Northern Ireland, Jim. Really enjoyed your live stream recently, your Monday samples, when you had all the community on talking about their moments and things. It was brilliant to have on and see some familiar faces. My friend from Texas, Bobby Parnell, is here. He's saying, greetings all. I was about to put together a shopping list. Thought I'd do myself a favour and listen to some suggestions from the expert. No. Before I did, happy holidays, Roy. Bobby, it's wonderful to welcome you. You've been here since almost the beginning. There is a possibility that you and I might get our act together one time I'm over in Texas. We might be able to at least clink glasses and shake hands. Cheers, Bobby. Thanks for the dram. Cheers. Alan Newland is celebrating being a member of the Barflies for 10 months. So ready for 2022 to be over. So many of us feel the same way. It's been a common theme over the last few years, hasn't it, Alan? But it's wonderful to have your support. Thank you. Eric Cunliffe is also celebrating being a member for 19 months, here for the final one. Time for an Imperial 23. I'm going to guess that that's a single malts of Scotland bottling from Elixir. I hope you're enjoying it, Eric, and it's wonderful to have you in. Emil, my friend from Denmark, Emil Lund is in. He's bought me a dram to say hello, Roy. Thanks for a great year in whiskey. I wish you and everyone else a happy new year. Looking forward to the next time we meet. I've met Emil a few times over in Texas, interestingly, despite the fact that he's Danish. But he came over from Denmark and joined us in Glasgow this year as well, and brought a wee bit of Danish class to the proceedings. Emil, thanks to you, my friend. Thank you so much. I can't keep up with this tonight. Nick Gascoigne is saying, thanks, Roy, for another great year of the vPub, and wish you and yours a fantastic 2023. Nick, thank you so much for your generosity. And the dram experience is what we want to say. Thank you for so many great vPubs this year. Very much looking forward to 2023. Sláinte, Roy. Listen, everyone, I'm really glad I turned up tonight. It's pretty breathless and very, very, very generous of you. So to Jim, Whiskey Novice, Nick Gascoigne, and the Dram Experience, thank you all for your drams. Wonderful stuff. Whiskey Franco's just bought me a wee dram to say, speaking of Speyburn 15, bought a bottle and pummeling through it. Glad I took recommendation, Roy. Cheers. I am so glad to hear that. I genuinely am, because you go on about something, and it's not because it's the best whiskey you've ever tasted, but you go on about it because of the position that it holds against its peers, what it represents to anybody coming into whiskey. With Speyburn 15, you've got something that is perfectly balanced, that can hold the attention of a whiskey geek, I believe, and can also be poured easily for somebody who's just curious and interested in whiskey. And when you tell them that it's a 15-year-old whiskey, you can think about what you were doing 15 years previous and talk about the fact that that's the youngest component in the bottle. That's quite fascinating to me. As time goes on, it's going to be harder and harder to get these well-aged, mature products, certainly more expensive. And in Speyburn 15, we've got a sub £60 offering there that I think is fantastic. The only thing that can stand close to it is Glencadam's 15-year-old, which is a completely different profile, but wonderful value too. Whiskey and Wine Trails, that's Tom. Roy received your too kind gift, and he's saying thanks so much. Thanks very much, Tom. I think that we are going to get a chance to meet in 2023. The plans are already afoot. It's wonderful. Thanks very much for your generous dram. And Dribs and Drams, I think that's over in Canada. Yeah, of course you are as well. Putting his own content out there on YouTube. Haven't checked it out in a wee while. I think you're still putting it out there. Received my latest shipment of whiskies from Alberta. He's saying a Glenallachie 12. Got lost in the mail though. Grumble. It's only money, right? That is a shame if it gets lost though. That's frustrating. It's not happened to me without replacement yet. I hope something comes through for you, and I hope you get your whiskey in your hands, my friend. But to you, Dribs and Drams, and to my friend Tom, Whiskey and Wine Trails, cheers to you. And Jimmy Legg is in saying 4 months, being a barfly and seen 34 months of great fun, thanks to you and Lynn. Maybe I'll be mindful enough to thank my wife publicly out loud on a stream for all her support and indulgence and background patience. Thanks, Jimmy. Okay, let's get on to summarising our blind challenge that we did last week, because it was a mess. The blind challenge was a kind of background event. I was sending out these really quite interesting whiskies. A wee kind of selfish thing going on in there as well. But I wanted people to try these whiskies, and I wanted to get their feedback and their impression on them. I only sent out things that I loved, that struck me, things that I genuinely enjoyed, to see what people would think about it. So what we'll do is we'll pull this up here. I'm just blanking out my screen for a second to do this slideshow, and I can do a quick screen share just to summarize it and go through it here. Let's see if I can do this easily. Yes, I can. Hopefully that's going to bring that right in here. So this is what I was using last week, just to, and I was trying to share it with everyone as well so that they could see and keep up, people in the community. I realized that a blind challenge isn't always the best viewing experience when you're kind of vicariously watching. So I was trying to make it as interactive as possible. So if I take you through this wee thing here, we've got the 5 challenges I asked people, and so they'd already committed to what their favourite was to least favourite. I'll show you what that was, and I'll show you what the results were in a second. But there were 5 interesting whiskies here. One of them was a 2-year-old Israeli malt, so not even a whiskey by SWA definitions, because it's less than 3 years old. Then we had a 6-year-old, very young, but regardless, it still had an age statement on there, American single malt. We had a 7-year-old Highlander in the mix, alongside a mature 18-year-old Highlander. And we also had a peated Canadian whiskey. A bit of a banana skin when I mentioned that being a peated Canadian. But let's show you how that manifested, what that rolled into. The 2-year-old obviously was this Yerushalmi, which I believe is just another way of saying somebody from Jerusalem. Thanks to my friend Reb Mordecai, who donated this bottle. It really made me pause and think. This was super delicious whiskey, ridiculously good for being so young, such a young spirit. 2 years old, as I say, presented at 46.3%, and I believe that to be, interestingly, cask strength, because they quote an Angel's share of 18% ABV on the label. I don't think that's 18% volume. I think that's genuine ABV that's been lost in those 2 years, which is incredible. But this was their Solum single cask. It was a sessile oak edition, and it was peated. Fantastic stuff. And I put it up against the McCarthy single malt. This was a gift to me from my friend in California, Jay Chung. He brought over a host of interesting American whiskies. This one was interesting because it was using peated malt. And I quite enjoyed it too, at 50% ABV presentation. I put it in the mix to see what you thought about it. Then I put in a nice mature Scotch whiskey. I still think that Scotch is where it's at. That's still its strong point. It's got that variation there. It's got the depth of flavour in Scotch, but it's also got mature stock. It is becoming more and more difficult to afford that maturity. But I put this wee Ledaig 18 in the mix as well to see how it would fare. Then I put in an interesting one that came in very, very late. It bumped something else out, the blind challenge. It was only talked about and tried a week before, or 2 weeks before perhaps. Decadent Drinks, Equinox and Solstice, their Ben Nevis I put in there as well, 48.5% ABV, a preferred strength of Angus McRailed, the whiskey sponge, who put this together. There was also a 57.1% release went out as well, obviously 100 proof, 57.1% ABV, but this is their 7-year-old, £75. So if you're looking at whiskey sponge product, a more affordable one, I was curious, I dropped coin on it, and I was very, very happy with it too. Thought it was delicious. And then finally, here we have our Canadian entry here, but this is the Lot 40. Now, this is a non-age statement. Cask strength release. This is a peated cask. So you see there's a thread of peat throughout this whole thing here. There's some very, very light touch peat. But you can see that I'm kind of going for big, bold flavours and really quite a variety. Well, interestingly enough, how did this play out? This is everybody's results. We did get it a wee bit back to front, so this is correcting things a wee bit. I've added up the scores here. This means nothing. This is probably the most amount of people I've been collecting the scores for, so much so I had to get Menno to do it. But even notwithstanding that, we're still only talking about 3, 6, 9, what was that, 11 or 12 people playing along in the background. But you can see the results, and it's super interesting. Super interesting to me, especially when I look at the people that are choosing these things and what they're putting as their favourite to least favourite. There is things to glean from this, regardless of the fact that it's a small sample size. But if we give 5 points to first place, 1 point to last place, and we add it all up, what we end up with is that red winning the day, blue coming second, yellow in the middle, joints third with orange, and green drawing up last position there. And just to let you see what that actually translates to, first place is red. That's a 7-year-old Ben Nevis. Not a surprise to me because there's two things at play there. Ben Nevis, which is a fantastic enthusiast distillery in my book, wonderfully densely flavoured old school product coming out of there more often than not. And then you've got a cask that's been selected by Angus. It's come together to take the plaudits on the blind tasting, winning by a wee comfortable 6 points. Second place went to Ledaig, 18-year-old. This to me is wonderful whiskey. I'm going to get an opportunity to talk about this whiskey later tonight. I want to talk about it because it needs to be talked about. Brought to my attention in the Oswas this year. That's why it ended up making it into this blind challenge. And then joint third place between the Yerushalmi, a 2-year-old, and a young American malt, 6-year-old McCarthy's. I was asking people what they thought of the whiskies I was sending out. They all enjoyed it very, very much. There were no duds in here, with the exception of a few people not connecting with the green. And that is typical. That is very typical, because what we're actually talking about there is malt drinkers not connecting with rye casks, which is a very different thing. I'm sorry, I need to check if I've missed any super chats or anything coming through while I had that on full screen there. I think I may have missed one. Dave and BV, yes, I have missed a super chat from you. I'm glad I managed to catch that, Dave. Thank you very, very much for your generous dram. And he's saying, good evening, Roy. Can't wait to see if your choice for Whiskey of the Year will be available in my VA ABC store. So VA, where is that? Where would VA be? Is that a state or is it a province? Victoria? Can't be. Let me know what that is, Dave. But anyway, I'll let you know shortly. Thanks for your dram. Cheers to you. And Helen is also celebrating being a member for 33 months, saying, thanks for a super 2022, Roy. Here's the 2023. Aye, Helen, same to you as well. Thanks for everything that you've done for me over 2022 and beyond. So rye, I think that the reason that green came last is I think rye, out of the whiskey styles, is probably the most difficult for a Scotch drinker. I think it's easier to connect with if you're a bourbon drinker and you're used to the kind of rye flavour profile making its voice known in certain bourbons and things. But if you come to rye, especially 100% rye, as a Scotch drinker, there's challenging flavours in there. People talk about bizarre things like soapy notes and perfumes and things, where other people get more herbal and kind of garden type notes, green notes. For me, I'm loving rye whiskey. In fact, one of the most interesting ryes this year was from John Bell. It was a King's Inch New York rye whiskey. I believe it to have been 100% rye as well. Lovely, wonderfully flavoured stuff. Ryes are something that you can enjoy, but it's like anything. It's like any extreme whiskey flavour profile. It does need a wee bit of investment and time. With time, you do come to enjoy it a lot, I hope. Mark is saying, see you in 2023. Cheers, barflies. Fantastic, Mark. I hope that literally means that we will get a chance to see each other in 2023. Cheers to you. Okay, I'm going to pull out my red pen and just see if I can keep up with my topics tonight, because there's a lot to talk about. 2022 was a big year. So let's generalize as Ledaig celebrates being a member as well for 33 months. Oh, message deleted. Oops. I don't know. I don't know why that was deleted. But Ledaig, I hope I can pick it up in a second. Either there's a fat finger going on there or something. VA is usually Virginia. Okay. Thanks, Falsgraf. My German friend Falsgraf is keeping me right about VA abbreviations for American states. Terrific stuff. So there were, for me, kind of more broad brush general things that happened in 2022. But it wasn't that they were new, that they suddenly appeared. It was just that they became more of a thing. That it's encouraging in my book, we're keeping it positive tonight, that we saw more of this. And the first thing I think is encouraging is the dram that I've almost finished now, is we saw a double down of people investing and putting effort into blended malts. We touched on it ever so slightly with Angus a couple of weeks ago, and throughout the year in 2022, you'll have seen me talking about my prediction that blended malts is a category that's ripe for development, let's say. There's more room there. So where you've got some kind of, a lot of fairly kind of not particularly exciting in its own right, let's say, malt whiskey, you can use it as a wonderful component to blend along with another malt whiskey and bring together something that's delicious and fantastic. And if you do it very, very well, because we're talking about something that Compass Box has been doing for 2 straight decades, very successfully, wonderfully successfully, redefining our attitude of the B word blended, right? But if it's done very well, it can also be something that's affordable, because that's going to become a bigger issue as we roll into 2023. There's no kind of crystal ball required to make a prediction like that, right? So I've obviously picked up this Thompson Brothers SRV 5. The SRV 5, a bit of a misnomer there. This is not 5 years old or anything. The BSW blend from them that's got 6 in the name is a 6-year-old, but this is actually an 8-year-old malt. And they're vatting this. So SRV is Station Road VAT 5. So this is a 1200, going from memory, I think it's a 1200 litre vat. And what they're doing is they're bottling and then vatting and bottling and then vatting. So fairly short marriage times, I think, in this vat. But what we're getting is this ever kind of evolving, almost Solera style system going on there. And they're releasing this product. Now, I have bought quite a few bottles of this. Why? Because I loved it. I liked it. I liked it a lot even. But it's quite sweet at times. And there is a lot going on in here that will tell you that there's a lot of youthful whiskies involved in the mix here. Obviously, it's £35 a bottle. It's very, very good value. 48.5% ABV. It's terrific bottling strength too. But I continued to buy it because I found it to be able to switch on me and keep me engaged and keep me sipping. And depending on what I sipped it in contrast with, it could be kind of spirity and slightly salty and briny. And then on other nights, it was very just sweet. And it just kept me guessing. This is an interesting, easy, no anxiety whiskey at £35 a bottle. I've almost gone through. This is the last that remains of it in the house. And I was at the Good Spirits Company earlier in the week, and I bought my replacement. Don't be thinking that this is different, that this has changed. The only thing that's changed here, the bottling strength is the same, the description, the labeling and everything is the same, but it's clearly a different batch. It's going to change over time. And it's obvious that this is a different batch because it's in different glass. And quite tongue-in-cheek, you might be able to see that if it focuses. They're calling this the extra special. Come on, focus camera, do your wee best. The extra special glass shortage edition here on the top. So they couldn't get any of their tall, kind of more generic whiskey bottle glasses because of the mess of things right now, honestly. But they could get a hold of these. Now, I think I really like these. There may be other bottlers out there that have used this bottle before, but I didn't recognize it. I think it's quite distinctive. I think it holds this label well, and I think that it's got brown glass means that we're not really caring about the color and the color variation too much, which is a nice wee segue. David Evans is celebrating being a member for 33 months and saying thanks, Roy, for drinking an American rye single cask, an Americana. Okay, so I don't know if you're talking about the New York King's Inch rye I was talking about. That not only did I drink, but I enjoyed very, very much, David. Or if you're talking about the North American but Canadian Lot 40, but that's not a single cask. And I've also got a dram that's come in from Seaweed World. And I think I know who you are, but you're calling yourself Seaweed World here. So I think I know that that's Sherry, isn't it? He said, thank you for all the wonderful info and good times, Roy. Cheers and Happy New Year. Sherry, so you've mentioned who you are. Sherry in Pearl River, British Columbia, Canada. I'll have the last of my Thompson Brothers, Sherry, and say thank you to you. Thanks very much for being here in 2022. So we're seeing clearly this is very, very much different batch. I mean, let's not talk about colour or anything. We can clearly see that this is a different batch. So this is from a different vatting, but it's still malt whiskey, it's still good value, all of these things. And we kind of, as malt enthusiasts, need to make other malt drinkers out there that are less kind of geeky, that people are much more casual drinkers or they just buy a branded bottle. We need to get the word out there that they don't need to study it. They don't need to understand how it's made, the production, the history and everything. They don't need to know the nth degree. The thing that they need to understand about enjoyment of malt whiskey, I believe, is the fact that it is a small batch product. Even the huge, big distilleries out there with the biggest stills are making it batch by batch by batch. It's inherently a batch-made product. So as soon as you try to force it to be consistent, batch after batch, month after month, year after year, there's going to inevitably be flavor drift. There's going to be things that come in. There's going to be step changes between batches, both in flavor and color and things. And I think that's not a difficult concept to get on with and understand. I think this is a good thing. And in fact, it's something to celebrate. So my trend for 2022 that I noticed was not only a strong trend towards support for blended malts, which I want to see more and more of, but it's also a strong trend towards people not caring about colour quite as much. Look at this. 2 Campbelltown malts. This is batch 2, I believe, but I'm not sure because it doesn't say on the bottle. I don't think they care. It would be nice if they did just put a wee bottle code on there that was easy to interpret, but fortunately they put a wee laser code on there saying this is 25th of July 2022. This was a gift to me from the whiskey influencer Tim in New York. When I met him this year, he put this in my hand and I'm enjoying it very much, especially on the back of batch 1 when it first came out. Loved it. And this is a very, very recent batch. Look at the colour here. Big difference in colour. Why am I talking about colour? Well, we know it's natural and we can enjoy it. And this was bottled on the 3rd of October 2022, so a much more recent bottling. Now look, these are blended Campbelltown malts that we're looking at here. I hope you can clearly see just the huge step change in colour difference there. And every other part of the branding is the same. We are seeing more and more of this. Tim Medley, you're in here tonight. You sent me an image here of your 2 bottles of Annock 18. There is as much difference in colour as there are in these 2 bottles that I'm showing you here, Tim, right? I found the same with Speyburn 15 this year. Huge step differences, changes in colour, despite buying the bottles quite closely together. Huge different colours. Colour difference. Look at this bottle that I snapped when I was over in Texas. I went into a store in Texas and there were 2 Deanston 12-year-olds sitting together on the shelf. Look at the colour difference here. This is huge colour difference, right? Huge. And it's fantastic. It's fantastic because producers are not being tempted to dose the bottles with colour, artificial colour, to make this one on your right-hand side here, this paler colour, step up and match the one that's on the left, the darker colour. This is super positive stuff. Let malt whiskey be malt whiskey, especially when you're dealing with a sherry cask, which the activity of the way that the sherry interacts with the spirit is hugely wild, much more wild than it is on a bourbon cask even, but it can be very, very different in a bourbon cask too. You don't know always what you're going to get out. If you're a producer that's on the scale that's big enough to be able to vat all these things out and help iron them out a little bit, you're in a better place potentially. But for smaller producers, we need more of this. We need more of that Deanston overlay that I just showed you there. We need more of this. We need more of this, don't we? Let's not care about colour. And let's know, despite being humans who buy with their eyes, we've been taught for decades that darker is better and it means all of these things. But let's go with our palate and let's know that often it's not necessarily a dark whiskey that gives us a better experience. In fact, in my experience, I would say that if it's not 50-50, it's probably weighted in lighter, golden, more yellow coloured whiskies. That's the second trend that I would love to encourage for us to care a wee bit less about batch variation and colour. Tim Hoekstra is saying had the exact same thing with the 2 Campbelltown locks this week. What a batch difference. Be interesting to see what the change is in flavour, of course, and it's because it's a blended malt. We want it to be a bit different. Do we ever think that we're going to be let down when we're paying 35, 40 pounds tops a bottle? No, we're going to be looked after. They're going to put it together and they're going to make a good whiskey. They've got a good product and they're proud of it. They don't want to ruin it. Reb is saying, absolutely, I think we should rejoice in batch differences, variation on a theme. Fantastic, Reb. And Barter is saying, evening Aqvavitae and Barflies, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, Robert, as well. When it comes, my friend, it's good to welcome you here. And Hoyt has bought me a dram to say Happy New Year, Roy. Thank you very much, my friend Hoyt. Let's get something else poured. Let's roll into something else, because I've had a few messages saying, Roy, you were raving and raving about RN18, and oh my goodness, what a big difference in colour with the latest batch. Now, this is all that I've got left of my RN18. I rinsed it because I'm loving it, and I talked about it throughout 2019, 2020, 21, 20. This new RN is it's playing at a different level now. It's different from the RN18s of old. That's a good thing and a bad thing, depending on your perspective. But regardless, this where it is today has been a magical whiskey. Now, the 2022 release, the latest release that's come out, I should see if there's a code on this bottle here. Here we go. This is etched. This is quite easy to see, actually. 14th of October 2022. So this is the absolute most recent one. If you look here, oh, I don't know if you can see. I might need a wee bit of paper to help me with this on the camera, which means I'm going to drop the bottle on the desk if I'm not careful. It's going to be hard to see. But basically, this new batch of RN18, there's a lot of people being concerned that this is much lighter than the super dark RN18 that they have got used to over the last couple of years. We can't ask for things, get the things, and then complain about the things. This is whiskey. This is what it's doing to us. What we have here in the latest batch of RN, I'm just going to open it and pour it. There we go. What we have here with the latest batch of RN is another 18-year-old, all-natural, single malt whiskey. Now, if it's not as dark as the ones that we've had before, does that mean it's going to be any less good? Maybe, yes. Because we're all different. We're all going to have a subjective opinion. Let's get a clean glass here. Subdued pop, and if I remember well, the RNs really don't glug, but we'll try it. No glug from the rounded shoulder. I'm at the dentist in the morning, so I have to go easy. I don't want to ever suffer a boozy face from Roy. Neck pour, just freshly out the bottle. Smells gorgeous. A bit more toffee caramel. There is age here. There's definite age here. Let's coat this glass, see if we can get the aromas up a bit. I've just stuck my nose right in the glass, so it's struggling a wee bit, but cheers, everyone. Cheers to batch variation. This is not the same whiskey. Absolutely no doubt about that. This is fantastic whiskey. First sip, can't judge it, can't review it. My initial reaction is, I'm in. I want more of this. Aaron are getting better and better. Why are they getting better? Because they're learning from experience. They've been on the go now. They've got a 25-year-old official product now. They're on the go for 27 plus years. They've been making whiskey. They know what they're doing now. They've got more stocks to draw from when they're putting together whiskies as well. When we talk about blended malts, you've got to remember that this is also a blend, but it's just blended from malt from the same distillery. It's a huge vatting of casks, and they're bringing it together to make it as good a product as they can. Oh, that's a belter. That's just a very, very, very good whiskey. What did I pay for this? This is arrived only this week. I think I paid £80 for this. 85, I think £85, something like that. So the price has stayed pretty stable over the last couple of years. Please do not be put off by the fact that this is a wee bit lighter. I wanted it to be good. I wanted it to back up the messaging right now, but I guarantee you it does. It really does. I predict another bottle in the Aqvavitae home that's going to get rinsed far quicker than it deserves to be. So if we talk about blended malts being a trend, if we talk about colour and batch variation being a trend and people caring a wee bit less about it, then that means that the next thing that's the obvious trend is this drive towards more and more natural whiskey, naturally presented whiskey. If we are willing to accept huge step changes in colour, we are willing to accept the fact that if the liquid is a wee bit cold, we pour it over ice or add some cool water, it clouds up. We are willing to accept that because where we are enjoying whiskey today is becoming more and more and more focused on flavour first. Integrity, quality, value, all of these things, but flavour first. That's the driver for everything. If you don't chill filter, I put it to you that the flavour has a better chance of standing up. If you don't add colouring to things, I put it to you that the flavour has a better chance of standing up. If you're able to put 46.8, whatever ABV you want to put on the bottle, honestly, for your own comfort as a producer, fine. But if you're willing to stand up and do all of those things and put it on the bottle, we are not going to care about batch variation. We're not going to care, even if there's an age statement on there. Things have changed. We are understanding. We are understanding because the quality that's been brought to us is getting better and better all the time. Age statement is becoming less of an issue as time goes on. So natural over age statement is definitely a trend. Scotty Mac 4 has just joined the Barflies. Thank you very much, Scotty. You and all the other Barflies that stepped up to support the channel means that I'll never make this monetized. It'll never be ads will never be shown throughout the vPub and as any videos that I release on the channel going forward, including recycled reviews, because of the support from you and the other Barflies. They will never be monetized. Thank you so much. So there we have it. One more final trend before we move on quickly, because I think it's a significant trend. And in the 3 minutes that Menno and I had discussing everything tonight before we went live, it even popped up. Robert has said, where has this 6 months gone? Cheers, Roy. So he's been a member of the Barflies for 6 months. Cheers, Robert. I'm glad to have had you here, my friend. Cheers. The next trend and the final trend before I move on to the meat and potatoes of things is Scotch is not the only story in town. That's not a surprise. It's not a new thing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about trends. It's been doubling down. Look at what's happened from White Peak this year. The Wireworks releases, delicious stuff. Very, very young whiskey in England, amongst a sea of other really interesting releases across England and Ireland. But it's not stopping there. Coming up very soon on Dramface, you're going to be able to read a piece by Dallas on 2 German malts, 2 whiskey sponge releases that he's put together. This is happening, and it's been happening for long enough now that there's maturity out there in world whiskies like we've never known before. The choice, the variation that we're being spoiled by today is happening more and more and more. My picks from 2022 for those categories, and it's not just a case of I have tried these and I decide that they're good. I've put them out to you and I've been sharing them. I've been putting them into blind challenges. I've been really quite, I want as many opinions as I can get. And these have stood up. First one, a blind challenge extraordinaire, a quite incredible thing. This is peated Nika whiskey, and yet peat is not the word that is take away from this. It's lovely, balanced, delicate tropical fruit. This is Yoichi's non-age statement single malt. Now I'm holding this up. This is an expensive whiskey, especially for a non-age statement. So I've been using this in blind challenges. I've been putting it up against mature peated whiskies. I've been putting it up against all sorts, honestly. This was the winner in the live challenge. So I know that there's close to 60 of you out there that joined me for that challenge in Glasgow earlier this year in November, you witnessed this having first place. It's incredible. It's very, very good. And it shows that Japanese whiskey is recovering and it's bringing quality back to the table again. Yes, we're paying a wee bit more for it, but don't dismiss it because it's Japanese. That's a mistake. This one is completely new. This is their first release of their own core range single malt. This is from the southwest of Ireland. This is Dingle single malt. Now, of course, they do single pot still Irish, and they do various batches of all sorts of fun and experimental and interesting things. But this was a much, much bigger outturn, fully natural, and it says so on the label. It talks about non-chill filtered. It doesn't say natural colour. I wish it would. I wish it would they put it on the bottle. Maybe it says it somewhere. Maybe it was on the box that's long since been disposed of. Not even sure if this came in a box. 46.3% ABV as well. I have loved this. Another theme that you will see throughout tonight, that when I talk about the whiskies that I'm loving, usually what's happening is you see the bottle very, very low, or you'll see that it's empty or being replaced. This is crucial. It's incumbent upon me to try as many whiskies as I can so that if I speak about whiskies, I'm speaking about them from a place of I have tried these and these are my opinions. And it's not my opinions based on secondhand opinions from other people. I'm giving you my own experience. That's important to me. When I buy and replace a bottle, that should be important to you. Because I don't need to replace these things. One of the best vPubs that you engaged with this year, and I'll bring it back next year, was the Permashelf vPub. What I'm going to be keeping on my Permashelf year after year, how that changes over time. This is important. This is when we find good whiskies that hit that sweet spot of value and engagement and flavour and quality and everything that we need in it. And we want another. Sometimes we're buying another bottle before we've even finished the one in hand. But I doff my cap to World Whiskies and what's happening out there. It's amazing. They're coming hard and fast and they're bringing more and more flavour all the time with more and more of an eye on quality. Falsgraf is saying, had this one tonight, the Dingle, very accessible as far as I know, and it is natural colour. A bit too caramel for my favourite, but good. Glad you're enjoying it, Falsgraf. And it's okay for things to be a bit more sweet or whatever on anybody's kind of subjective spectrum. When we say that, and when people come to know about what we're talking about and understand that, oh, they tend not to like sweet whiskies, we can rationalise it and quantify it. Graham Fraser is saying, I remember that Yoichi well from the Glasgow Whisky Festival. Blind Challenge, Roy. Thankfully, I have a bottle too. Fantastic, Graham. And Jimmy Legg is saying, you're setting a bad example by buying expensive no age statement. Try to do better. Jimmy, I will sit you down and I will put whiskies in front of you and I'll say, Jimmy, all you have to do is pick out which of these whiskies are expensive no age statement and which of these whiskies are expensive age statement. Now, I know you know, and I know that you're jesting with me, but I think as time is going on, we're realizing that if we hang our jackets on age statement alone, we are just as shallow as the person that's walking in and buying the darkest whiskey he can buy, buying the brand that he or she can recognize, buying just blindly buying regardless of price, regardless of we need to always check ourselves. And I think age statement is very much part of that. Younger whiskies, new ideas and perspectives on whiskey, new producers, all of these are coming into the scene now to make us realise that young whiskies are not what they once were. Jimmy Jazz is gifted 20 Aqvavitae memberships. So I guess that, I don't know how that works, Jimmy, but thank you. I know that Ben, Whisky with Molly Ben, has been gifting a lot of memberships recently, but it looks like he's been very, very generous in handing out 20 memberships. My pal over there in the Northeast US, Jimmy, I hope that 2023 can bring us together again once more, my friend. Cheers to you. Tom Verbruggen is saying, I went on a holiday. That's that, Aaron. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. Tom, I went on a holiday to Dingle last summer. I booked a B&B next to the distillery so I could visit on foot. Seemed that the distillery was under construction. Oh no. I hope that you get back there again. I know that they started out smaller. It's the problem for a lot of successful new distilleries. They need to expand immediately. But Jenkins is in. Good to see you, buddy. Saying I love it. We need a T-shirt. Dram buddies. He's saying dram buddies for from Gregor McQueen and Jimmy Legg. Is Gregor in tonight? That would be. He is in tonight. Good to see you. Time for a dram. Gregor saying dram buddies. When you're both on the same juice, it's official. Ah, okay. So if you're holding the same whiskey in your hand and that's what you're drinking tonight, the same as somebody else, it makes you a dram buzzy. Fantastic. Jimmy's already suggested that he's going to see me in Limburg. I really want to get to Limburg this year. I'm going to talk. That's a nice wee segue in, Jimmy, and I'm going to take it. We've covered the trends for now. Let's roll straight into events. We've talked. There's so many events this year, so many handshakes, so many meetups, so many things that have happened that I was worried might not be able to happen because of the previous 2 years and what that taught us. But 2022, sorry, revealed a wee bit more. Let's say flexibility. It let us get out and about a bit more, and we were a bit more relaxed about just going for it and enjoying it. And it meant that those events were a wee bit busier than they were in 2021 too. For me, my event of this year, I can't. When we went to the Glasgow Whisky Festival in February, it was wonderful. We were all ready for it. It was like this, finally we're here. And it was amazing, and everybody was really appreciative to be back in the same space. But the footfall was down, things were a wee bit quieter. There was a different dynamic to it. It was wonderful. In fact, it was so wonderful that it did make me worry a little bit that the November gathering might not be as good. Then I went over to Limburg. My goodness, what an event. Limburg is just a really different take on whisky festivals. If you've come into whisky in very recent years and you're used to a kind of more typical whisky festival where it's producers with their current ranges and their current releases and things like that, Limburg is the exact opposite of that. Not exclusively so, but generally it's focused much more on historical whiskey and antique whiskey and all of these kind of things that are long since gone and past. It is a much more geek focused festival, but it's wonderful and laid back and easy, and you just lose yourself in it. It's fantastic. Limburg is definitely up there with everything I hoped it could be and a wee bit more. And meeting some of you guys as well for the first time ever. My friend Sergey, my friends from all over, from Germany, from Norway, from Belgium, from Netherlands, from that continental kind of central hub where we can kind of travel and get together. Max from Austria, Luna, everyone, Doc, Macallan Fine and Rare, everybody just getting together. It was fantastic. Glasgow was under pressure in November to be that good, but my goodness, did it deliver. It was just amazing for me. My whisky moment of this year is the Glasgow Whisky Festival weekend, and if I'm going to be selfish about it, I'm going to say the moment that I looked at the sky after the Aqvavitae Blind Challenge, then there were no more nerves anymore. It was successful. Everyone was happy. And I just said thank you to the whiskey gods for, for letting me put together another fun event. It was wonderful. It was, if I tell you that there were tears shed at that event, you might not believe me and you might think it a bit strange, or you might think that there was too much whiskey consumed. There were tears shed, and it was not about that. It was about the real things. It was about the things that matter. And you just need to go and do it and enjoy yourself. It's wonderful, and it was wonderful. If I can bring more events like that in 2023, I am privileged, absolutely. But more than anything, I'm going to try my hardest to get out there and get involved in more events like that in 2023. Pay, money permitting. That's going to be the thing for us all. Certainly going to be a thing for me in 2023, of course. But Limburg, Jimmy, if you're going to Limburg, that's suddenly cranked it up a notch. Maybe I need to just get Limburg sorted out. I'll get back to you in January and let you know how that's going. Glen Drunken has bought me a dram. Glen, we managed to meet this year. Roy Mayer, whisky expectations continue to rise in accordance with our budget we spend on our drams. Here's to being back in Scotland in 2023. That would be amazing. And Gigi UK, welcome to Aqvavitae Barflies. I think I know who you are, Gigi. Is that Gigi as in Stuart? Stuart's partner, GG, it could be you. You didn't make it to that event I'm talking about this year, GG, but I hope that you make it to the next one. Welcome to Barflies, and thanks to you, Glenn Duncan, for your generous dram. Cheers. Okay, let's quickly, before I go into talk about some exciting new releases that were brought to us in 2022, on the subject of cost, the subject of money, let's talk about how much of a challenge that's going to be. So we're still keeping an eye on, we talk about flavor, quality, integrity, all of that. But is it impossible to bring all of those things at a good flavor, a good price point, all of that flavor, all that quality? It's getting harder, I think. It's getting harder for us to discover it. So it must be harder for folks to produce it, perhaps. And then along come some things to make us realize, everything's fine. Some of the things I spoke about earlier, the Thompson Brothers SRV 5, 8-year-old, the Campbelltown Loch, blended malt Campbelltown whiskey. Suddenly we've got things that are reasonable value that we can connect with. Another release from Thompson Brothers. I need another. I finished it this week. I used this at the Aqvavitae Blind Challenge. You can see here, this was a blue. This is a souvenir I brought back from that, a blue dot. This came second only to that Yoichi I spoke about. It beat Port Charlotte 10. It beat a 33-year-old Vega blended malt whiskey. And it beat a 23-year-old Capardonic. This 6-year-old whiskey for 33, 34 pounds a bottle beat all of those. When we don't know what we're drinking and we go on flavour alone, it's capable of doing that very thing. How many times this year have I been surprised by this whiskey that I'm going to hold up to you next? That's a blended Scotch whiskey I've just shown you there in the Thompson Brothers. This is a single malt for the same price. If we relax about age and go on flavour, this will convert you. This will kill you. This is incredible. I've had samples from the community. I've tried it out there. It was there at the Aqvavitae Blind Challenge when we all got together. It's behind the bar all over the place because it's an inexpensive malt whiskey. It doesn't have an age statement on it there. But if we demand an age statement today, I think we're starting to miss the point. This Sinclair series, now it's finished in Rioja casks. That's not my wheelhouse whiskey flavour profile. But this is a peated malt, a robust, heavy, shouty peated malt. It's got the grunt to stand up to red wine maturation, no problem. In fact, you can even add that the red fruit and red berries and things that it brings, it diminishes the tannins and things that puts me off about red wine maturation. For 33, 34 pounds, this is incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I've bought it. I've not opened it yet. I know what this whiskey tastes like, and I'm going to be glad to have this around and get to know it a wee bit better. So that's just two very, very easy, low-cost budget highlights for me in 2022. Now, I appreciate that especially the Thompson Brothers is going to be hard for you to get your hands on, and maybe that Ledaig Sinclair series Rioja finish hasn't made it out to you yet, depending on where you are. But I hope the takeaway from that is that it's encouraging and that it's coming. Lee Hosey's been a barfly for 20, he is the whiskey fly, Lee Hosey. He's been a barfly member for 25 months, and he's saying another 1 dram of the Thompson Brothers BSW. I ordered a second. It's easy. There's no anxiety, right, Lee? Because you're enjoying it. Lucas is saying, oh, that Ledaig is so damn fine. Somebody else that's enjoying it, Cal Whiskey, is saying, sitting in my cabinet, the Sinclair is amazing. Best value whiskey I know. Fantastic, Cal Whiskey. Time for a dram. Gregor is saying, my whiskey moment of the year has to be the anticipatory build-up to the actual rolling of the ferry onto Isle, seeing you and the boys lined up and excitement to embrace me. Magical. It was, Gregor. It was magical. It would be easy for me to talk about moments like that too, but they were kind of much more, I don't know. Yes, a bit more intimate, a bit more kind of smaller groups and things. But it was tremendous. Whiskey Novice Jim is saying, oh, there were tears Aqvavitae, and we'll be back. I can't wait. The colour, the fun, the humour that your boys, not just the people from Northern Ireland, you don't need to be from Northern Ireland to be part of Jim's Hallian Battalion. Lee J. Brown's part of the group and everything. But the fun and the genuine enthusiasm that you brought to the Glasgow weekend was tremendous, Jim. Please come back and bring your squad with you too. Graham Fraser is saying the Glasgow Whisky Festival pre-festival gathering in the pot stall was an event too this year. Absolutely, Graham, and that's coming from a man who gets his fair share of whisky events. Just need to look at his social media feeds. He's a very busy whisky boy. Jesse Artensalo is saying good evening, Barflies and Aqvavitae. Jesse, it's good to welcome you and thanks for being a member for 12 months. Well, Ledaig, of course, says Tommy Elmer. Good to see you in. Chat's up and down all over the place. And Menno is saying, I tried the latest release, a 9-year-old cask strength Ledaig cask strength, fully matured in wine casks, and it works. Downside is it's €100 or so. Oh, aye, it's a wee bit pricey. When we start to get to these special editions, we're more and more grateful for the wider outturns. Helen is saying, Hellswood is saying, our whisky of moment of 2022 was our trip to Glasgow and Islay and getting to meet so many of our beloved barflies as well as your good self. And it was wonderful to meet you, Helen, and Andy too. I need something else in a glass so I can raise glass. Cheers to things. So what have we got to move on to? Well, the next section that I have to move on to is to, I'm just going to do this. I have to do it. It's so self-indulgent, but I have to do it. I've done value. Let's move on to a highlight for me in 2022. This wee thing. So many of you were able to try it. So many, many, many more of you were not able to even see this. But this is the first ever Barflies release. There was no talk. We did it all in images. Sheila painted a magnificent image of Loch Lomond, Ben Lomond, sorry, Loch Lomond and Ben Lomond that went on the back. And on the front, there wasn't a mention of me. There wasn't a mention of anything. There was just the Barfly logo there on the front. And there was also a wee tiny Aqvavitae logo. That was it. Very low key. It was put out to patrons first. Of course it was. The reason that I get to endure is because of my amazing, wonderful patrons. Thank you so much for giving me, honestly, a job. I'll never, ever tire of thanking you. But after months and months and months, years actually of trying to put together a cask that was worthy of this, because it's not a money-making exercise. It can't be, there's only 250 bottles. So even if I was going to take, half of that was pure profit for me, but it's nothing even, it's tiny, the amount of money that I make from an exercise like this. It's worth much more than that, though, to the community. If we talk about buddy drams, like was mentioned by Gregor earlier, and Bud Jenkins, imagine that 250 people are able to buy a bottle of this, and 250 people, theoretically at the same time, can be sitting down sipping the same whiskey. Imagine then that it's a good whiskey, a very good whiskey. That's what these community releases will be about. And I say plural because there's more planned for the future. There's 3, and it's just a case of I am not going to push in any direction. Whichever one comes forward first will be released first. And they are all, I'm privileged to be working with all of them. This is my Loch Lomond, 10 years old, Chardonnay yeast, 54.9% ABV, single cask, first full bourbon, but very pale. And just so Moorish. I am tearing through. The biggest thing about this bottle is you open it and it's gone. And it's a wee bit heartbreaking and bittersweet in many ways. But it shows you how much it's being enjoyed. I'm so pleased that I loved it so much, but I'm just as pleased, even more pleased, about how much you guys all enjoyed it too. A highlight for me. But what about if you can't get a hold of this? Well, I talked recently about the distiller exclusive release, but that was a single cask as well, 300 or less bottles. That's sold out now too. So what about if you want to have something close to this? Well, the closest is a very, very decent pick for value pick as well. This is a 46% ABV, 12-year-old Inchmurrin. They only need to ditch the reliance on colouring, and we'll shout about this stuff from the rooftops. We really, really will. We're already happy. We're already very grateful that it's here. But this is the closest. Straight neck pot stills, very fruity style of Loch Lomond, very easy drinking, crowd pleaser, fantastic. 40, 45 pounds, depending on where you buy it from. You can sometimes pick it up on offer. And a terrific wee pick. Missed a couple of drams coming in. Let's catch these quickly. That's from Lee Hosey. I got yours, Lee. Dave Swift in New Zealand. To a fantastic whiskey 2022, getting to Isla and making so many new discoveries, loving the rabbit hole. It's a wonderful rabbit hole, Dave. And I think it's you that sent me those New Zealand samples that I need to get my head around at some point. Dave, thank you very much for your generous dram. And maybe next time we'll get a chance to raise a glass together. I'm sorry I missed you in 2022. Maybe the next time it happens, we can hook up. Cheers. And a wee dram come in. Oh no, it's a generous dram from my pal Jimmy. He's saying, Jimmy Ledaig is saying, I can't tell you how lucky I feel to have a bottle of that Loch Lomond. Any barfly that visits me gets some. It's open, but I'm savouring it slowly. Thank you again, Peter Lee. That means so much, Jimmy, because the fact that you're able to enjoy that and appreciate it means that even when we have disagreements and things, you know that more than anything, we're chasing flavour and as much of it as we can possibly bag. Thanks, Jimmy, for your generosity, for your humour, for your support, for everything that you've brought in 2022 and much, much longer. Cheers, Jimmy Ledaig. Okay, we're at an hour already. I need to get my shoes on here. So we've got the Loch Lomond stuff out the way. We've got my value stuff out the way as well. I can't not talk about releasing that Aqvavitae bottle. I want to talk very, very quickly. I just want to bring up these and show you these whiskey releases that I got genuinely excited about in 2022. I have to say that for me, Ardnamurchan bringing out their cast strength release at the start of the year was a huge, huge highlight for me. This is the 09 2022. This is the later one in the year. I'm halfway through this now. The one that came out earlier in the year, I rinsed very, very quickly. Loved, 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 to the point that I went out and bought another. You can buy these and pick these up at auction now. They are available. They are not nearly as ridiculous as you might imagine. And if you look at Dramface, actually, on the 31st, the last day of the year, it's going to be an Ardnageddon huge piece on Ardnamurchan, written by Doogie. A fantastic piece of writing. Love it, love it, love it. Just what a retrospective to go out with. There's two retrospectives going out. There's going to be a Bunnerhaven retrospective that's by Ogilvy, and on the features page there'll be the Ardnageddon piece from Doogie. So we're treating you. We're going out the year with a bang with two pieces out. But if you read what the messaging in his piece when he talks about the fact that you can pick up things like Ardnamurchan on secondary now for really, really good prices, don't be tempted to pay over the odds. Don't let FOMO take over. There's always going to be another whiskey. And what's for you doesn't pass you. So if there's something that you're really, really hell-bent on trying, get the message out there. And eventually, at some point, it's going to come to you. Believe me, for sure. I was able to pick up that Ardnamurchan, the original cast strength, from just £1. It was, and I think that there's some that's going for retail and even less, but I paid just £1 or £2 over retail to get that from auction. To the Limburg Fund, fair play to you, Hoyt. He's bought me a wee dram to help me get to Limburg in April in 2023. Cheers, Hoyt. I was privileged to meet you way before the dark days of the pandemic. I hope you're keeping well, my friend. Cheers. Papa Q is saying, how about a second Aqvavitae Loch Lomond release in 2023? Surely Michael Henry can spare another great cask. Well, it's interesting, and I'm not going to pressure anyone for this, for the reasons I've already explained. But there's been a couple of things that's come up from Loch Lomond specifically that's made me say, oh, no, that's too tempting. That's too interesting a thing to do. But the concept is one thing, the idea is one thing, sitting down and tasting the product is another. I've got the difficult second album now after that first Loch Lomond release. So it's a case of where do you go? What do you do? Do we go first? So it's all up there. Yeah, Jerry, watch this space and I'll keep you informed as to what's happening in 2023. But I never say never. No Rolex is saying both Ardnamurchan and Ben Romack have been a highlight of the year. Ben Romack doing fantastic stuff, moving in the right direction as well. 46% is becoming more of a theme from them. Just about time too. Wonderfully flavoured spirit. If Ben Romack isn't on anyone's radar I don't know what radar that you're looking at. It's probably the wrong one. It's tremendous. It doesn't feature in my chat tonight. It's good that you were here to bring it up, though, Alex, because it's very worthy of a mention. And Ardnamurchan will get a mention in a second. Graham Fraser is saying, thrilled to pick up a really scarce bottle of Little Brown Dog Ardnamurchan today. That's fantastic. You managed to get hold of that. 60-odd% ABV as well, Graham. I think it was about 85 quid, a wee bit pricey. A lot of people loving it. Jimmy Legacy saying the follow-up album can only come from Campbelltown Aqvavitae. Campbelltown whiskey. Okay. Send me down the route of unobtainium, Jimmy Leg. No Rolex is asking if I've ever bothered with Lake's distillery whiskey. You know, I'm delinquent. Hell's Wood is in here tonight, and Helen, Andy, and a few others have been. I mean, they not asking us to focus on the early releases from Lakes, but the much more recent stuff, and they are loving it. And it's about time that I stepped up and matched it too. My pal Sandy McDonald's in saying, is it time to flip your bottle of Loch Lomond yet? Yes, Sandy, it's time. Flip that bottle. Please, can I buy it? That's tongue-in-cheek, but I'm serious. If you're not interested in opening it and drinking it, I'd be interested in having it. I've got one more bottle once that one's gone, and I've got two, but one's for Shayla. So it goes too quickly. And Dribs and Drams is saying, Roy, I hear you about rinsing a bottle fast. My Christmas dram this year is the Compass Box Artist Blend single marrying cask. It's disappearing fast. I had a lot of people talking positively about that. I'm not sure if that's the one that Rob brought to Isla with it, but I think it got rinsed on Isla if it did. But I'm glad you're enjoying it, Dribs and Drams. And Sherry's also joined Aqvavitae Barflies. Thank you so much, Sherry. Doc McCallan Fine and Rare is in tonight. Thanks for the bi-coloured sign. Listen, Doc, I know that we're. I hope we're not causing anxiety, but if Limburg happens in 2023, buddy, we're going to need a bigger boat. So, yes, it's going to be challenging, but we'll work that out near the time. Excited. I would like to join Limburg. Anyway, so my exciting new releases: the Ardnamurchan cast strength release. I think was just a masterclass of a brilliant whiskey to bring out. It's one of those whiskies that made me so excited for the future. But also, there's been release after release after release from Tobermory that's made me realise that, there's always something coming along. We've talked about the Sinclair release. The Ledaig 10 was talked about loudly in the Online Scotch Whisky Awards alongside its older sibling, the Ledaig 18, this year. It seems to me that that's just the peated side of Tobermory we're talking about in Ledaig. The stuff that's coming from there, because we're starting to taste the liquid that's post-revision. The investment, the changes in production that went in across at different stages through all the Burn Stewart distilleries at the time, now owned by Distell, Bunnahabhain, Deanston, and Tobermory. We are now tasting the output from that. We are now reaping the benefits from those things, and we can taste the difference. There is always a chance of a really magical, wonderful, independent Ledaig or Tobermory or whatever it may be. Sometimes they can be so good that they become the stuff of legend, really quite distinctive casks. However, what I'm talking about is a much more consistent, really compelling product at very good value pricing for the core range stuff. As has already been pointed out, when we get to special releases, exclusive distillery pours, things like that, price becomes a wee bit salty. We're trading with rarity there, but the core releases are absolutely fabulous. Jed Smith is saying the Tobermory brand itself has been like Distell's Ugly Duckling. I love it. The 12 is a brilliant dram in my mind. I think it's blossoming into this gloriously beautiful swan. I think that it's getting better and better. It doesn't matter whether it's a Tobermory label that's on there or a Ledaig label that's on there now. The inconsistencies and the gambling, the riskiness of the past that came with buying one of the products don't exist anymore. It's incredible to see. I'm worried I've missed a dram. I missed Graham Young's. Cheers to you, Roy, for friendship, kinship, and fellowship. Cheers to an April return to Scotland and to the Limburg Fund. Thank you, Graham. Plans to be there myself in Limburg 2024. Oh, that would be one to look forward to, Graham Young. Cheers to you, my friend, for all the time. We've met a lot of times over the years. Now, you've got a reason to come into Scotland because you've got family here, Graham. But that means it's something to be celebrated because it means that we've got an excuse to get together ever so briefly. But if you come here for an event, we'll be able to spend a lot more time together, my friend. Thanks to you for your generosity and support. Cheers, Graham. And your pal, Gino. Terrific stuff. Okay. But I want to bring another new exciting thing into the mix here. We've got the established here in Tobermory and Ledaig becoming a more of a renaissance thing. We've got Ardnamurchan here that while they're a new distillery, they are becoming established now. They're becoming available in more and more markets. It's going to be interesting to talk about that in a second. But what about things that have just come out of the traps in the last 12 months or so? Brand new things. And really start the chatter going. We've got that here. I put this in a blind challenge earlier in the year and it went down fantastically well. This is my second bottle of Glen Wyvis 20. Now it's confusing. This is called the 20/18, which is the O2 18 release. There were 8,000 bottles of this at 46.5% ABV released in 2022. So there's a lot of this about, depending on where you are. This is my second bottle. Here's my third. This is something that I didn't buy when it first appeared because it was too expensive. Now, I have to caveat this heavily. It's £60 a bottle, £65, £62, depending on where you're buying it from. It's not cheap, but it's very, very good. This is one of the best examples of kind of what I've been referring to as modern whiskey. This kind of fermenty forward, fruit-led, really quite ripe and bready and doughy, ripe fruits as well. This really kind of estery product that we're getting from these extended fermentation times. People who are not chasing efficiency, so trying to get it through the fermentation side of production as quickly as possible, know they're taking their time and they're stretching that. And we're seeing that come through in the flavour. We're seeing that more than anything, I believe, today. That kind of estery-led flavour profile. Daft Mill, as an example, fantastic. Bladnoch, if you're looking for a more established name, very, very similar style. There are lots of them out there. We're seeing a wee bit of that coming through in Loch Lomond from time to time as well, that kind of estery fruitiness. This was fantastic. I mean, this is still very young and spirity whiskey. There's no doubt that it's young whiskey. But the tropical side of this has been compelling and wonderful. Did very, very well in the blind challenge way back earlier in the year. It meant that I was sharing this like a crazy man. I wanted people to taste it, but I realized that when the bottle was drained, I needed some for myself. This is going to appear in a recycled review very soon. The empty bottle's down there, and I want to talk about it a wee bit more. But these things are not whiskey of the year. This is a retrospective. This is a look back. This is something for me to say, this is just, there's so many exciting things. Even the length of a vPub, it's 2 and 3 hours long. It's not long enough to talk about all of these things. Graham Fraser's saying there are still bottles of the Ben Wyvis on shelves in Scotland now. I bought a second bottle after Julie Hamilton bought a Strams at the Glasgow Whisky Club, an amazing whiskey for its age. I agree, Graham, and I bought that bottle, the replacement one, off the shelf at the Good Spirits Company in Glasgow earlier this week. And Kilter Drummer, good to see you. And Gary saying enjoyed the release of Glen Wyvis. I've tried some of the non-release drams from them, and there is good stuff to come. Gary, that's good to hear. I don't doubt it for a second. Nice to welcome you in as well. Chris Pollock is saying, woohoo, recycled review coming up. Well, I've got some time off in January. Mood, weather, empty bottle selection, all of these things. I'm not making any promises right now, but it would be fantastic, Chris, if I managed to get one out in January. Time for a dram, Gregor. Cal Whisky just popped their cork of your Barfly bottle. My goodness. So Cal Whisky is trying it live, is he? He's just opened it tonight. I'm looking. I'll need to try it and keep up then. If he's going to drop in some, notes, I'll try and pick it up. And Ian Bruce is here saying, took the Glen Wyvis to a family wedding recently. It was liked too much. Need to replace it. For 3 years old, right? Hillary's in here saying that she loves that Ledaig. Fantastic. Okay. So there's lots to get excited about. There's one here that's kind of like, if you don't have time, don't mention it. But why am I trying to rush myself on the vPub? Uh, it's not. I'm going to talk more about this distillery before this vPub finishes tonight, because you just have to. And this came late in the year. This release. This is their 1022 release. It clues out there for some folk. 58.2% ABV, but this has been just such a Christmas delight for me. I'm halfway through this bottle. I make no apologies. I'm getting through it fast. I don't imagine this will exist beyond January. But it's another Ardnamurchan. And I bang on and bang on about loving kind of whiskey that's just left for a long time in a refill cask or a quiet bourbon cask and all of these things. But it's releases like this that make me realize that there is so much flavor, so much wonder out there, so much amazing new things that just stay open minded. Don't choose a lane, don't lock yourself into a style. Stay as open minded as you can. Sherry style whiskies are not my preference, certainly not Madeira. And yet, this is fantastic. This has been a lovely, and I've been very careful with this. This has been sipped by me. I haven't been sharing a lot of this one. This is just my wee decadent pour, because this will be difficult to replace this Madeira cask. It was a decent outturn, nearly 6,000 bottles of this released, but it's going to be harder to get a hold of. But this, the reason I wanted to mention this tonight, I know I've already talked about Ardnamurchan, but they're here because they make me excited about the future. So if we look back at 2022 and what they were able to deliver in order to inspire our optimism for the future, these are the whiskies I want to talk about. By the way, £65, cask strength, wonderfully flavoured product. I can't close out 2022, even though I've suggested I can skip this if I'm running behind time, which I am. I can't. I have to mention it. Cal Whiskey saying the Loch Lomond is great, really fruity, but still with the vanilla. It has a fizziness to it. That's the fizziness is the thing, the effervescence, the pineapple and the mango and the fizzy sherbet lemon and the prosecco and the going to have to stop myself from finishing the bottle too soon. It's super Moorish Cal Whiskey, far too Moorish. It will disappear quickly. Sipping the fabulous dram at the moment, Hellswood is saying, Conal Mackenzie, Peter Lee sorted us our bottle. You're talking about the Madeira, I hope. Fantastic, Helen. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Oops, it just jumped there. Ian Bruce is saying, are you doing a version of the Masked Singer, Masked Malt? No. Maybe, Ian, you picked up that I did a wee bit of karaoke at the closing credits of last week's vPub. No, it won't become a regular thing. Conal Mackenzie is in tonight, Conal. Thank you very much for putting your head above the parapet. Please remember that Conal, I know he works in the industry, and I know you're going to be tempted to ask him lots of bothersome questions and things, but he's here as a barfly tonight, so he's just sitting in the pub. Imagine he was sitting in the pub and just kind of like... Drew from Arizona is saying, I know how hard it is to name best of 2022. I've thought at times that this is the best whatever just had in my glass. Absolutely. Let's get on to talking about my producer of the year. There's a lot of things going out this time of year, isn't there? You know, I've been watching them. I've been watching Whiskey Wednesday. I've been watching G Whiskey. I've been watching, everybody. It's difficult for me to catch up. Everybody's putting out the Whiskey of the year. I haven't found anyone that's going to choose the same Whiskey of the year as me in YouTube, but I am not the first to pick this as Whiskey of the year. No matter, that doesn't matter. We're not trying to be unique or different. We're trying to award flavor, quality, integrity, availability, value, all of those things that we enjoy. So let's move into a producer then. What do we ask from a producer? What do we need them to provide in order to be worthy of a producer of the year? For whiskey geeks, for enthusiasts, we are not the casual sippers who just cruise up and down an aisle and grab our something that we fancy, something that's on offer, something that we recognize, whatever it may be. We are deeply invested in this thing. And that means that we turn up with a set of checkboxes. Oftentimes, we need the majority of the checkboxes to be ticked in order for us to go ahead with a purchase. Usually it involves the basics, the ABCDs, like some idea of age of the whiskey, an age statement. B for bottling strength. We want the bottling strength, the ABV, to be there to bring that flavour. We want the reassurance that it's not been chill filtered. For C, chill filtration. And then D, dye for colour added. These are the natural ABCs that we look for. But we're probably looking for a wee bit more. We're looking from a recommendation from a trusted friend. We're also looking for an idea or a concept of transparency. Something on the label that communicates to us that this product has been made. Prioritizing quality, engagement, value, flavor. Transparency is huge. We're also needing the price to be appropriate too. It really is becoming much, much more crucial, because this is the strategy that betrays the culture of the producer. And if the culture of the producer is one to chase luxury good placement, as is their wish, they're running a business at the end of the day, it's fine. But that immediately disengages so many of us that, okay, if you're going for product positioning, what you're doing is charging for perception's sake. It's not what we chase. We need to pay you enough that you're making enough money to continue and endure. We need you to be successful. Don't sell cheap whiskies either. Don't chase luxury. Don't chase supermarket shelves. I don't know. It's just the geek, the enthusiast in me talking. Don't be too expensive. Don't be too cheap. Be fair. Surely that's the long game. The amount of producers out there today in 2022 that's chasing the long game is more than there's ever been. That's what I believe. Because all the incumbents, all the ones that's been established for a long time, all the ones that are going through this process of renaissance, and all the new distilleries that are appearing, I believe, are following that strategy. Integrity, honesty, value, transparency, all the things that's easy to connect with. My producer of the year for this year tick all of those boxes easily. They make the job look easy. But I'm going to mention the runner-up who do all of those things so well that it's absolutely ridiculous. In fact, it's comedic how well they do all these things. And the only reason that they're a runner-up and not my producer of the year is that availability hasn't gone as far as it needs to yet. It's not their fault. It's down to scale, it's down to patience, and it's down to time. But of course, I'm talking about Ardnamurchan. They are showing everybody that you can be super successful, being super honest, being flavor focused, and charging what you need in order to make a profitable product without rinsing your customers. Focusing on the idea that they're going to come back and come back and come back again, and they're going to bring hordes of their friends back because they love what you're doing, and they don't feel shortchanged, and they don't wince and feel because the prices and the gouging and the exclusivity, and they suddenly feel things getting taken away from them. Because that's happening across whiskey brands right across the board. It's not happening at Ardnamurchan. It's early days, but the feeling I get from them as a producer is that that is not on the agenda. They are making fantastic product, and they are saving themselves a fortune, I believe, in marketing costs, because the word of mouth is doing the job for them. Ardnamurchan are making me excited about the future of whiskey, about new distilleries, about transparency, about the idea that natural concepts, integrity-based concepts can work. I know that you're not able to get this. Depending on where you are, it's into North America now. It's made it there. It's right across Europe. It's making its way into Asia. It's making its way south of the equator as well. It's managing. It's getting there more and more. It's getting further and further afield. You will come across Ardnamurchan, and I hope you pick it up and buy it with utter confidence that you're going to get just a fantastic whiskey, even if it's not your. I don't think I know anybody that's turned up and said, that Ardnamurchan that you recommend, I didn't like it. I don't think it's ever happened. It happens regularly with whiskey generally. Ardnamurchan, I don't think it's ever happened. So what beats that amount of comedic transparency? Who can go one further than that? Well, the only box left to tick is availability, global distribution, maturity in the supply chain. I'm going to reach over and I'm going to grab my advent calendar. I can talk about that too. And I'm going to reveal my whiskey, my producer of 2022. And it's not for the first time that I've given them this award. Everything that's coming out from Arran now, like I've just opened and tasted tonight with this 18-year-old, is fantastic. The blueprint that they are following, fully natural whiskies with very few exceptions. The Robert Burns release, the Barrel Reserve release, there are volume whiskies in the portfolio, but they are not a focus. This is their focus. That 10-year-old is their pivot point. Everything else is born from that. The stuff that they're doing is wonderful. Macri Moor under the Arran portfolio, and now a brand new distillery in the southern end of the island too in Ledaig. Can't wait to see how that transforms over time too. It was easy for me to decide who my producer of 2022 was going to be. Much easier than it was my whiskey. Congratulations, Arran. I think that the whiskies that's coming out from you guys is absolutely terrific. An hour and a half in. Let's get on with it. Fastcraft is saying, I have not even one producer of the year, but a mindset of a producer is king. Ardnamurchan and Arran are up there, and since I am an ecology freak, Nicknean is in there too. Absolutely, we've still to see the true colours of what's happening at Nicknean. It's going to be interesting to see what's happening in the future. I didn't pick up their Huntress or a few other interesting releases there. I maybe need to just make the pilgrimage and go up and visit the place. Conor McKenzie is saying 36 markets worldwide now. So Conor McKenzie is actually business development globally for Ardnamurchan, and he's in here tonight. He's one of us. He understands what we are after, and I get the feeling that Ardnamurchan generally do. And so the scale fits us and where we are as enthusiasts right now. But I also hope that as they grow and blossom and do all the great things that a successful business should do, I get the impression that we will still be able to connect with them. Jimmy Legacy, I've only had Ardnamurchan. At one Ardnamurchan, I didn't like it. Well, there's a few things that you don't like, Jimmy, and that's why you're welcome here. You're the first person to tell me that they didn't like the Ardnamurchan. I'd love to know which one it was, and I'd love to have some time in front of you to see if I can change your mind. I know exactly how I would do that, but it might involve a 5-hour drive up to the peninsula. Elsewhere is saying Whisky of the Year 2022 for us is an indie bottling. Infrequent Flyers, 13-year-old PX, Pedro Jimenez, Craig Elchie. Simply exquisite, she's saying. Fantastic. And for the amount of people that can get these really, really quite focused single cask type experiences, go explore as much as you possibly can. Clearly, as part of what I'm doing here, I'm trying to always find things that people can get their hands on. There's no point in me talking about vicarious enjoyment is one thing. You can only take it so far. It needs to be something that you can potentially try someday. The Dram Experience is saying, I have just heard that the new batch of Ardnamurchan Cask Strength arrived in Australia. Pretty amazing. It's there, as Connell's already mentioned. Fantastic. Daniel Caballero saying, Arran is such a great distillery. Love every single bottle from them. Jimmy Legg is saying, Graham Young knows which Ardna it was. And Rick Johnson is saying, I like the Arran 18, but I give the nod to the Arran Port Cask. Oh, interesting pick, Rick. Fantastic. Time for a Dram is saying, I've preemptively opened my Kuboken 15, giving it time in a glass it deserves, but my sweet lordy lord on the nose, this dram is something else. So that's Time for a Dram, Gregor, the anti-peat freak, talking about a peaty dram. I wonder if the Kuboken 15 is going to make an appearance later tonight. Graham Fraser saying, if Lag develops as well as Lochranza, we're in for an exciting future from Arran, Roy. I agree, Graham Fraser. Mark Slinger is saying, Roy, Arran Quarter Cask is always a go-to for me. One of the best value picks out there in whiskey, bar none. You'll see that the Quarter Cask is in the middle there, actually, that quite full wee bottle there. Terrific. Okay. And Rob Smith is saying that he's also quite impressed with Arran Quarter Cask and the Port Cask. And Ben Whisky with Molly is saying, can't wait for another certain distillery. Oops, bring it back. Where is it, Ben? Can't wait for a certain distillery to release their first Palo Cortado release in 2023. Already know it'll be my Whisky of the Year next year. That's the fanboy kicking in. Glenn Duncan is saying, looking at my coffee with disdain. Whose idea was it to stop whiskey dramming at work? Glenn, don't worry. You can pick this up on the replay as such as your desire. and you can drink along with us. Thanks for joining us early days down in early hours of the morning down in Australia. Cheers, Glenn. I'm rushing now, throwing things at myself. We need to get on. I'm very mindful that it's 1 hour 34 in, and I haven't even started. I've covered the moments, that's good, but I need to get this wee countdown out of the way. Firstly, do you remember the advent calendar I put together at the start of December? I loved this. It was fun putting it together, and to build a vPub on the back of it was fun too. But this is my advent calendar, which is silly. I've written daddies down here as well. So it was James, mostly James, but the girls as well, were coming in and just grabbing these sample bottles. And I'd written on the bottom what they were. This is the Yoichi one here. I'd written on the bottom what they were, but they were pouring them for me blind and just asking me, getting me to guess. So the reason that there's a wee partition in here is the ones on this side is the ones I got right, and the ones on this side are the ones I got wrong. I got 8. Actually, I only get 6. Outright, I guessed 6, but there was 2 more that when I flicked through the timestamps on the video that I did to remind myself what was in there, I managed to get 2 extras, but they weren't too tasting blind. They were semi-blind, let's say, blind with a bit of help. But let's say 8. So almost 1/3 out of 24 drams, I guessed 8 blind. I was really, really over the moon with that. That's probably the best performance I've ever managed in blind tasting. And it's certainly more than I would have expected or guessed. But I think I would have guessed even more than that if I'd been sitting with a list and marking off what I'd already sipped. I think that I would have done even better. So I might make a wee revision next year. But I encourage you to do what I did this year, making your own advent calendar, because all of the whiskies that I put into the mix were interesting, good, or recommendable whiskies. So it meant my advent calendar was glorious. And I was going, even the ones I didn't have a clue what was in the glass, I was saying, I don't care that I don't know what this is. It's fantastic. Interestingly, the only one that left me cold was the Redbreast 15. I thought it was flat, and I wondered if something had gone wrong with it. Maybe it's just what you sip it in contrast with, but that was the only one that kind of left me a bit going, oh, really? Fantastic thing to do. I just wanted to give you an update. I promised you that I would let you know how this went. 24 drams over the course of December. I managed to guess. I'm taking 8. I guessed 6 outright. I guessed another 2 with a wee bit of help. And I will do that again next year. It was a very helpful exercise for me to go through and consider the 2022 whiskies to make a job like this a wee bit easier too. Ian Bruce is saying, I took the opportunity to use the Advent idea to finish off bottles with heels left. Another good way of doing it, Ian. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, let's just get on with it. A couple of honourable mentions. I can't even speak now. This is hard. This is very, very difficult to do. So I want to just hold up 3 bottles that never made it to the cut. This will show you how good the top 5 is. Glen 15, fantastic whiskey, fantastic value, sub £60 for a 15-year-old malt whiskey, fully natural, all the specs on the label. In the sweet spot of Scotch malt whiskey as well as 15 years old. Just terrific, terrific stuff. Interestingly, this bottle, which I bought later in the year, this maybe a 2021 bottle or a 2022 bottle. I can't read the date code on that. It's very pale. I don't even know if it's a date code or if it's readable, but this is a purchase this year, and it was a wee bit darker than the super pale release that I had last year that I loved. I'm loving this every bit as much, if not a wee bit more. Again, relax about the colour variation. Darker or lighter, it doesn't matter. Go with it. Just trust the producer once they bring out something that you like, as long as they are natural and they maintain that natural focus on flavour, we're in good hands. Glen 15, just a terrific whiskey. It's still under the radar for so many people that perhaps see it as a budget whiskey. That's a big mistake. That is a fully 100% integrity bottling. Terrific. You already know how I feel about his 10-year-old sibling as well. One of the best value whiskies out there on the planet. This one I have to talk about. I know you can't get this. I know you can't get a hold of it. I know it's frustrating for me to talk about it, but I sip this and I sip this again and I sip this again. I bought this in June this year, and it's been one of my treat whiskies. I've tried really, really hard to stay away from it because I can't replace this easily. Look what's left of Coquerin 16. Now, specifically, you can see from the silver font here that's around the 16, it just says aged 16 years, but the aged in years is in a light grey font. It's the only thing that tells you this is a 2022 release of summertime this year, because the ABV and everything else is the same. So you end up looking for this really quite faint. This is the June 2022 bottling. So when I bought this, this was fresh. This was right on the shelves soon after bottling, because I was down there in late June in Campbelltown. That's when I bought this, and it's just been the only reason it's not in the top 5. It is so good for £65 for 16-year-old fully natural malt whiskey. The only reason that it's not in the mix is because of availability, and that's not Kilkerran's fault. And a surprise, and the only Speyside I think that you'll hear me talking about in the entire vPub today, which is super interesting in itself, is this. A Pernod Ricard bottling. Oh my goodness. I'm pouring this for people and saying, am I right? Am I right here? Is this, am I making a mistake? Is this wrong? This isn't cheap. You might pay 85, 90 pounds for this bottle, but remember, it's an 18-year-old. It's not ridiculous. And it's from Pernod Ricard, and they tend to premiumize things. This 48% ABV Secret Speyside release, it is an official core bottling in slightly different bottle shape from the official Longmorns, slightly different labeling here. It's got the wee train up at the top there. Look for this 18, this labeling here. This is the Secret Speyside core release. Fabulous whiskey. Is it sherry? Is it bourbon? Depending on the night, depending on the moment, it's both. Is it textured? Is it spicy? Is it? It's all over the place. There's a little bit of vibrancy there, a little bit of grit and engagement to the palate too. That lovely kind of elegant, exquisite kind of flavored, fruity. It's a very detailed whiskey, in my opinion, for an 18-year-old Speysider from a producer who regularly, for malt's sake, just don't step up to the plate. But if they do, when they do, we need to hold it up and celebrate it. And this is a cracker, an absolute cracker. That's just the honourable mentions, my goodness. Dave Swift is saying, no Glenallachie. They released some magic whiskies this year. Full integrity at a great price. The one that really struck me was the 4-year-old peated, was Billy Walker's own. That was compelling. For me, Glenallachie are bringing out fantastic whiskies, really, really enjoyable, and they are very popular with so many people, Dave. I have yet to find one that has knocked me on my backside. That is not to say that they have been mundane, average, poor, bad, or anything. It's just I'm just waiting on. I want to be able to say more than just, oh, this is good. This is very good. I want to say, oh, this is excellent. Like a wee bit like when I picked up that Aaron earlier today. Falsgraph is saying Pernod is Pernod, but Longmorn is Longmorn. So probably a valid exception in the holder's pattern. I know, but they can sometimes abuse it, Falsgraph. Sometimes we've seen had some really weak releases from Longmorn that's not displayed Longmorn in a nice way. The current 16 core range is very good. There are other core ranges that are very good as well, but they're pricey. That one is reasonable value. That Secret Speyside release is excellent. Okay, let's go on with the top 5. I think, did I catch that? Benny Fries has bought me a dram. My goodness, such a generous dram, Benny. I just want to say Happy New Year and best wishes for you and all the lovely barflies. A bit busy these weeks, so unfortunately not participating as much as I'd like. I appreciate this community so much. Thanks all. Stay safe. Benny, we appreciate you too. Thank you so much for dropping in, and thank you, my friend, from me, for such a generous dram. Benny, one day we will meet and raise a glass together. Cheers to you. Greg from Paris is here saying maybe you're waiting for a non-wood tech one like me. Aqvavitae. He's talking about Glenallachie, I think. I think that's probably true, Greg. I struggle to find a partner to my 35-year-old TSMOS, to be honest, even at 15 years old. I don't know what TSMOS stands for. Perhaps I'm being a wee bit dim there, Greg, but I think that's probably true. It's not to say that wood tech whiskies are bad or anything. No. It's just to say that you know, my pick is the new 8-year-old that came out. I enjoyed very much, and the 10-year-old Cask Strength. But I think that's quite an obvious pick. It's the most kind of communicative releases that they've had. The most kind of obviously different. The more kind of engaging. They've made lovely smooth and thick and sweet and all of these fantastic whiskies. And I know that there are people going to be screaming at me saying, Roy, what are you talking about? I don't trust you. But it's I know that there's going to be good Glenallachys out there that I just haven't tried yet. And I'll remain open. And TSMOS is saying the single malts of Scotland from Elixir, absolutely fantastic, and a very good range of products too. Graham Fraser saying, I shared a bottle of Cadenhead's Longmorn 26 recently and it blew everyone away. I can imagine that it would. And Everwind is in saying, I always wonder who's drinking these distilleries. The folks are not commonly buying like Longmorn, Glenglassaugh, and how are they making profit? The truth is that they're doing pretty well. And so much, especially in the case of Longmorn under the stewardship of Pernod Ricard, Chris, we've got a lot of product that's been made simply to go into Ballantine's and Chivas Regal and brands such as that, which I'm sure are very, very profitable. Pernod Ricard, a bit like Diageo, focus very much on blends and tend to have single malt offerings as an afterthought, in my opinion. Number 5. Let's start the countdown on my whiskey of the year. I'm going to go through this quite quickly because I appreciate I am 1 hour 45 minutes in and I haven't even got to the premise of the whole thing yet. But I have focused fully on celebrating 2022. Number 5. I had this release came out in 2021. Then they brought out another release in 2022 and I opened a vPub telling everybody I have found a belter. And I have found a belter. I didn't find it, but I did find it. In my wee tiny wee world in the corner of in my wee house here, I found this and said, "Oh, that's amazing!" So grateful, so grateful to Burn Stewart, Distell, sorry, for bringing out the 2022 release of the 12-year-old Bunnahabhain Cask Strength. This took a fairly good, solid product in 2021, but a lot of us were left looking at it going, what is this? This is not what we expected, because they've got a 12-year-old core range at 46.3%. So when they brought out a cask strength version of that, that's what we expected. But it was different. We wanted the 12-year-old Bunna with everything cranked up. 2021 was not that. It was a departure. It was something a bit different. 2022's release is everything cranked up, and I will argue a bit more. This is a stunning whiskey, and it's so bold and robust. If you want to scoosh a wee bit of water in with it and play with water, it'll stand up to it, no problem. This is at 56.6% ABV, but you can comfortably sip it neat too. This is full-on sherry. I'm going to pour a wee drip of it. I don't have enough glasses tonight. I need to keep at least one glass clean. Even with that teaspoon in, you can see how dark and rich it is. Now, I've just been spent the vPub talking about we don't care about colour, but we do care about colour when they tell us that it's natural colour, and here under the label, under the 2022 edition, they write no added colour and non-chill filter. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We don't mind paying the 75, close to 80 quid for this when it's this good a whiskey. Thick malt and treacle and sherry spice. So flavorful. Thick and sweet and bitter at the same time. Viscous. Just cracking. A wee bit of an old school type lick to this. This is what last year's release. I think that I'm not suggesting it's what it should have been. I think I'm suggesting it's what we were expecting. Cracking stuff. Well done, Bunnahabhain. Wonderful. Next up, maybe arguably the new Guardian of Islay. Tried it quietly. I thought I knew this product inside out. I tried it live in a blind and I've been trying it since. And I have completely redefined how I think about this whiskey. I think it's a great value product out there. Interestingly, I caught Ralphie's whiskey of the year, and I hope I'm not telling tales out of school. I hope you've already caught that. But this is what he put forward for his whiskey of the year too. 50% ABV for Bruichladdich Port Charlotte 10-year-old product. This was always played a wee bit hot for me, a wee bit not quite there yet. I think, like the story with so many malt distilleries in Scotland right now, over the years, they've got better at making a good product. This is in my top 5 because this is a very, very good product. This can go toe-to-toe with Ardbeg 10 and easily beat it for me now. That's how big a difference has been made at Bruichladdich. It's just, I accept. I thought I knew what I was talking about when I said it wasn't my favourite. Now it's one of my favourites. I think it's a cracker. Arguably the new Guardian of Islay. Graham Fraser is saying, as we end 2022, thanks for another year of great vPubs. Thank you, Graham. Thanks so much to you. And Whisky with Molly Ben is now busy gifting Aqvavitae memberships out to everybody. I don't actually know what that means. I need to work it out. Anyway, well done, Bunnahabhain. Terrific stuff. Sorry, Bruichladdich. Terrific stuff. Number 3, it's already been mentioned by Gregor McQuee. This came very late in the year. And Sevi phoned up and said, "Oh, have you tried the..." And I said, "No, I haven't tried the..." I said, "How much is it?" And I went, "Oh, it's expensive." He went, "No, just buy it, just try it." And I did, blind. This is a bi-directional thing. It's not just me. I discover so much from you. This was from a friend. This is from the alchemist Sevi. But he said, and this was delivered to me. I found it interesting. I reached out to Scott at Tomatin to ask a couple of questions about this and why. How can you go from non-age statement to a 15-year-old product, Kuboken? This is the one that Gregor mentioned. This is the Kuboken 15-year-old coming in 3rd place. Peat and sherry work well. We know this to be a thing. We know it to be a thing, but it's got to be done well. It's got to be in harmony. It's got to work and it's got to fit together, and it's got to be something that every sip distracts us. This does that, and there's a dryness here. There's a lovely savoury thing here. This is, you think you know what this is going to taste like, and then you sip it and you go, this is not what I expected this to taste like. And as I say, I think I'm valid in asking, how can you go from being non-age stated, the signature releases from Kuboken, the standard entry level stuff is the presentation is good at 46+% ABV, but it's all been non-age stated and it's been cask play type experimental stuff. And then out of the blue, they bring a 15-year-old product from Oloroso sherry casks. And my goodness, it's an absolute cracker. It's not Islay peat. It's some kind of aromatic tobacco. Oh. Dried red fruit. Think plum and prune juice and figs, but there's spice and there's a leather and a dryness and almost like as I say, a tobacco side. One of the most compelling, rich, interesting whiskies I've tried all year. Why is it no further up than 3rd place? It was £95 I paid for this. You can get it a wee bit cheaper. It's still in stock here, there, and everywhere. It's not a huge outturn. I think it was about 15,000 bottles or something. I might be mistaken there. But it's not cheap, and £95 is pricey. So I was nervous, and I trusted Sevi on this one, and I'm glad I did. This is a great whiskey. The fact that this could come in reasonably plentiful amounts from an official producer is something to be celebrated. Tomatin, Kuboken, just superb. You have released something that makes me very excited about the future. Keep the prices tighter, please, but my goodness. Just so good. Peter Wilcox is saying, "Hello, Roy. The Speyburn 15 you recommended is going down very well and is delicious. Thank you so much for the great content. Here's to 2023. Cheers to you, your good self, and the barflies." Peter, such nice words. Thank you very, very much. And a fantastic segue into the 2nd place. So many of you are expecting me to put this in 1st place. This is Speyburn 15, the one that Peter is sitting enjoying right now. But this is a comfortable 2nd place. When I mean that, it's easy for me to put it that high up. Arguably, this should have been my whiskey of the year. Despite the fact I discovered it in 2021, it's 2022 that brought this to me. This is my 4th purchase of this. How do you know it's my 4th purchase? Why am I could just say it's my 4th bottle. But you've seen me uncork 3 bottles of this live on vPubs at least. I tend to finish an empty and have another one on the go. This has been, and it's wonderful to see the slightly different changes in the color of this too. The original ones that I discovered in 2021 were paler whiskies. It's gone a wee bit more kind of sherry colored now and darker as the batches have gone on. This latest bottling that I have now, this was bought this year, definitely. I'm trying to read, there's a tiny, tiny L code there, L18/03 2022, so March 2022. I would argue that this has gone just a notch paler again. The one that I've finished here was darker. £54 I paid for this. 15-year-old malt whiskey, natural, natural, natural. 46% ABV, tells us it's natural colour on the label and it's non-chill filtered. And they share that information too. But it has to be good, delicious whiskey. This has got weight. This is robust malt. This is thicker than you might imagine. And if you need convincing of how good this is, sip it against its peers. Don't sip it against £50, £55 whiskey. Sip it against £65, £75 whiskies. Look how well it stands up. Yes, there's an 18-year-old version of this that if you're into kind of elegant and rich and you know, really quite flavorful, fruity sherry style, the 18 is even more again. But for me, the pick is the 15. Still the 15. Should have been whiskey of my year of the year. Sorry, Speyburn. I apologise. You've been right at the last dying embers of the year. You've been knocked into second place. Is it worth paying extra for the Speyburn 18? I hope I've answered that. I think it's fantastic. I love it. I've only got a wee dribble left of the Speyburn 18 over there as well, Sandy. But in my opinion, the 15 it has it covered. It really does. My Speyburn 15 is the halfway mark, and I likely won't see the end of January. It is such a Moorish dram, says Whiskey Franco. I'm so glad you're enjoying it. And Whiskey with Molly Bennett said, I'd love an empty at Roy's house. One for the Kevin Bridges fans, absolutely. Ben, you don't need to wish for such things. That can happen very easily, my friend. Jimmy Legg is saying, sadly, that is true. I remember many of the things I opened. I hope Lynn is drinking them. It does. It just, some things just disappear. You know what you're enjoying. It's more reliable than your memory, the bottle level. There's going to be a huge theme tonight that you can see that I'm holding up empty bottles to show you that these are not things that I'm saying, oh, this is a good whiskey and I'm still sitting with a full bottle. These are genuinely being enjoyed and shared. It's not just my opinion. I'm asking trusted friends what they think about it too. So let's reveal what it is. What came in late in the year to take the honours away from Speyburn 15? It was you. You did it. Through the Oswas this year. I was surprised at first because this bottle made, and again, like the Port Charlotte, I thought I knew this bottle, but it made it through into the suggested nominations, made it past that, and made it out into the stages where we were voting for it. It made it through, and it did very, very well in the nominations. It did not win in the Oswas. It didn't win. But it did very well. And I thought, way back in October time, maybe it's time I invested again. I invested in a bottle, and I rinsed it. Oh, no, that's not true. But I have a friend with about, in fact, I'm not sure how much is left in the bottle there. I have a friend with some left. And so I bought another bottle, and this is the other bottle. That's what's going. So if we talk about the levels that I'm enjoying and sharing, this betrays how much I'm enjoying Ledaig 18. Ledaig 18 from a producer that's come up through Bunnahabhain, through Deanston. Santa's sitting on last year's Whiskey of the Year. Deanston's 18-year-old. That was a £65, £70 bottle of 18-year-old whiskey, fully ex-bourbon, matured, finished in first fill bourbon. This is from the same producer, Tobermory. I've talked about them as a producer earlier. This is their 18-year-old. Let me tell you about the whiskey that makes me, before the bottle's even finished, go straight out and buy a replacement, because not only am I loving this so much, but when I'm pouring this for other people, they're saying, oh my goodness. Now, I would argue that the Tomatin Kuboken is louder, or dialed up a bit more, has a bit more impact. But the Kuboken is limited, hard to get hold of, and £95. This Ledaig, 18-year-old, is widely distributed, huge outturn, available everywhere, demonstrates integrity, quality, maturity, funky, sour, ashen. Everything is in the same glass for £80. My whiskey of the year is an £80 whiskey. I don't do that lightly. I know what I'm suggesting there. Sometimes £80 can deliver £80 worth of enjoyment. That's what's happening in this glass of Ledaig. If you need any reassurance, I put it in the blind challenge last week, absolutely with not a clue to anybody, and asked people to rate it and tell me what they thought about it. And the only thing that could beat it was a hand-picked cask of Ben Nevis from one of the true divining rods in the whiskey industry, Angus MacRailed. And even then, not by much. So many people put this right at the top, absolutely blind, not knowing what it was. Ash. Ridiculous that that much ash and smoke and peat can still be there after 18 years. Clean, malty, grainy, but almost like a buttery, textury, bready type baked goods note. Some tobacco. The fruit is orange oils, sweet orange, satsuma. The smoke is just threading its way through there, but it's part of the thing. Just nosing this, you know there's a good sip to follow. The arrival is much softer, much more integrated, much more together than you expected from that nose. Everything is together. Nothing is sticking out in any direction. This was in October. 3 bottles in now. Okay, I've not opened my third. I'm 2 bottles in now. Just so grateful. I believe that what we are experiencing here is a culmination of experience. Somebody is talented putting this together, no doubt. But they are putting it together based on very good stocks that's been built up over years. The best blender in the world is not going to do a good job with crappy stock. You can't build a good whiskey from crap stock. Tobermory, Ledaig, the stocks that they have, the depths of stock that they have are now able to put this out there. This is sherry cask matured, peated whiskey. And it's so balanced, so savoury, so sweet, so fruity, so it's just so good. It's almost the epitome of what defines Scotch whiskey when you think about it. Age, sweet spot, 18 years old. Style, a wee bit smoky, a wee bit fruity, a wee bit savoury, a wee bit... It's just really exquisite is the best word. Terrific stuff. Whiskey with Molly saying I really loved it in a Brethren. Ledaig released this year, but the wee brother was great. The big brother is amazing. Falscraft is saying, bloody hell, I pay almost €130 for Ledaig 18 out of 5 fave suppliers. Not really my price range. Should I? €130, my goodness, that's heavy. Falscraft, I'll bring some to Limburg with me next year. What about that? If you remind me, then you can decide. Multi-Mission is saying all the notes so well integrated, Roy. Fantastic. Menno, Ross Brereton is saying, I offered this to my girlfriend's dad at Christmas. He turned it down for being too smoky. The more for me, I suppose. It needs investment, doesn't it? All of these seems to be containing natural essence, whiskey, batching, integrity, texture, strength, says Ian Bruce. Aqvavitae, sure there's an acronym for this. New bits. Natural essence, whiskey with batching, integrity, secure strength. Hey, I'm all for coming up with acronyms. Fantastic. We mnemonics like that work really well, Ian. New bits. Terrific stuff. Mamuka has bought me a dram to say peace, love, and alcohol, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful, healthy, happy, prosperous new year. Thanks to you, Mamuka, and it's nice for you to drop in and leave me a wee dram too. Cheers to you and all the best for your new year. Whiskey with Molly Ben is saying that was my standout favourite in the blind drams last week. No doubt, Ben. I think it caught a lot of people and they were pleased with it. And Gordon Fraser is saying, just joined. Sorry, boss. Been watching Cocktail with the wife. As you can see, you've caught me at a time that I've been probably drinking far too much drams to be going to the dentist very early tomorrow morning. But I think I've covered it. I think I've covered and summarised all of 2022. So, in the background, Menno has been sitting there patiently waiting, but he would have been hanging out with you guys anyway. I gave him the option to drop in and hang out here with me with the quiz ready to go, the traditional end of year Menno quiz. But I hope I've been able to summarise what 2022 was for me. Some people have had a kind of mediocre, lukewarm whiskey year in 2022. That's not been my feeling at all. Maybe pessimism leads to, or means that you're never disappointed. I was nervous about how this year was going to be, and it ended up over delivering on my expectations. So much of it is about expectations. But more than that, even if you were pernickety and fussy and you were demanding, I think 2022 has delivered surprises and quality more than we could ever have imagined. I can't summarize it better than the time during the Oswas when Ralphie and I were sitting there, totally surprised by Andre coming on from Signatory Vintage and giving us an exclusive to say, look, we're not going to release any more sub 46% ABV coloured filtered whiskies anymore. We're just not going to do it. And we'll announce that here tonight. Now, you could argue that it's easy for them as the value of that malt whiskey increases. You could argue lots of things, but I suggest to you, I put it to you, that they are reading the road ahead. And the road ahead is one of much more informed, selective choice and opinion and knowledge and investment, especially as money becomes tighter. What are you going to do? Are you going to try and meet the budget end of things and dilute your brand? Or are you going to put out less but make it better quality? What is your move going to be in 2023? Me, as a drinker, as an enthusiast, as a spectator, along with you, I'm just going to sit back and watch and consider and enjoy as much as I possibly can. But I come at this year, 2023, surprisingly, from a point of optimism. I am excited about the future in whiskey. Now, if I'm surprised this year, it's a negative thing. 2022 surprised me in a positive way. I hope you've enjoyed your 2022. We've been lucky, says Helen, enough to have an amazing whiskey in 2022. Fingers crossed for more of the same in 2023. And Sandy is saying it's okay if it's an NHS dentist. Oh, Sandy, aye. I think it is. Buddy, everybody, let's get our friend Menno in and let's see. I'm going to play along with you tonight. I'm in the ring competing with the rest of you. I have no idea what Menno's going to present. I never do, but I'm going to welcome in my friend from Belgium, Lord Asshat, the king of the quiz. I'm going to welcome in Menno. How are you, buddy? Thanks very much.
Hey, good evening.
Hey,
How are you?
You're not wearing the asshat cap tonight, but you are dressed in uniform. Oh, you have it ready. Well, I think you only get to wear that if you've succeeded in delivering asshats to the expectation of everybody that's hanging out to the end tonight. There's still 350 folk in for the quiz at the end, Menno. Terrific.
Excellent. Good choices, by the way.
Sorry?
Good choices. I
Oh,
applaud your taste.
well, it's been easy because of the crowd-funded taste thing that's happened throughout the year. You know, so many of the bottles that I've had and tried have been recommendations from the community. It's amazing that it can work that way. You know, the one that I was seriously thinking when the first glass of that Kuboken I had, I thought, oh my goodness, is this a whiskey of the year? You know, these are things that come to me from the community. Have you tried some of the ones that I put forward then, Menno?
Yeah, a few. The Ledaig I had a few years ago, and it was a worthy winner, but I would have picked this one.
Oh, your whiskey of the year is Victoriana.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, what is that? What's in the glass there?
Yeah, that's what's in the glass.
I noticed it was a very richly coloured thing. I'm glad you're enjoying that too. Very worthy of a mention, Victoriana, and what a thing it pulled off at the Oswas, right? A non-age stated whiskey takes the best Scotch whiskey. Terrific stuff. Controversial stuff. Listen, we're all strapping in for a bit of a, how are we doing for time too? Actually, it's not too bad on
Not
time.
too bad. Not too bad.
I've been rushing, but it's not too bad.
We'll get there.
What state are we in, Menno? Is it, I know you've already told me, but
It's, I feel pass marks are a distinct option for most here.
is it you being seasonally kind to us then? What you're trying to do is you're trying to, I don't need my ABC tonight because it's just me that's playing, but you're trying to be kind and guarantee us a pass mark, so maybe it's a challenge for a decent score. Is that it?
Yep, I think so. I feel so, yeah.
Listen, everybody that's in tonight playing along at the quiz, no, you only need to share your score if you want to. It's always multiple choice. It's always a bit of fun. Some of the questions are deliberately, if I know Menno, they're deliberately awkward and obtuse, but it's intentionally there for you to think about certain things and concepts. I am enduring the pain along with you. Menno, do I have a single iota of a clue of any of the questions tonight?
Nope. I should think not. I should think not.
I am having a flutter of nervousness, but here we go. Too Slow Rob is saying, I love my asshat questions, Aqvavitae. Don't worry about it. Finally Done is saying, at least you won't need an aesthetic tomorrow. An anesthetic. I'd really hope I don't need any anesthetic at the dentist tomorrow. I hope it's just a checkup, honestly. And Doc is saying, polo shirt, no issues with you at your heating bill yet. Actually, with all the lights that are on in here, I've actually got a fan behind the camera blowing at me, Doc, because it tends to get a wee bit stuffy and warm in here. Still in a polo shirt, and no, it's mild outside. I think it's about 6 or 7 degrees just now. Menno, my friend from Belgium, over to you when you're ready.
Roll on the quiz. Yep. I think it's still open.
Good luck, everyone. Good luck.
Indeed, good luck, everyone. Okay, then question 1, and I feel we're starting very easy. In collaboration with Royal Mile Whiskies, indie bottler James Eady released what earlier this year? Would that have been A, a blended malt containing whiskey from every active Speyside distillery? Is it B, a luxurious 150 quid book about British and Irish distilleries from 100 years ago? Or is it C, a 75-year-old single malt Glenfarclas?
You are being kind.
I am.
Rick Johnson's bought us a dram to say, hopefully this will buy my way into a 10 out of 10. Rick, I wish you the very best of luck, but I'd be paying $10 right now if such a thing. I have only ever scored an 8 out of 10 as my best ever Menno score.
Let's see if we can improve that tonight. Okay.
I'm ready when you are, Menno, but what I will say
is
that, okay, no, I'll wait for you to read it out again, sorry.
I see a lot of B's in the chat, and I'm curious to hear what your answer is, although I've got a pretty good idea.
Yeah, but they did do it in, I suppose, some form of collaboration. There was a lot of promotional work done by Royal Mile Whiskies, but I think this was fully a project that they realised the value in and carried it and promoted it, but it was very much a James Eady thing. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
B, a luxurious £150 book. £150 is a ridiculous amount of money to pay for any book until you see the book.
Of course, it was a B.
Yeah. Terrific piece of work.
Question 2. In October, Master of Malt posted a blog revealing the possibility of some rather unsettling news. What was it about? Is it A, there will very likely be a shortage of peated malt from Islay in the immediate future? Is it B, Diageo is considering the idea of taking a few household brands away from the UK and European markets and shift them towards the Asian markets? Or is it C, due to an aggressive fungus and an enormous amount of American oak forests meant to be used for casks are deemed useless for the whiskey industry?
Oh, not quite as obvious as we might imagine, I think.
But yeah, maybe not. But the news has probably trickled down regardless of the set block.
I could easily follow the crowd here, but of course, yes.
So
and it was troubling.
I'm sorry, Jimmy.
But it's troubling. But if we do see it being an issue, what we're actually going to suffer is quite a few years down the line. So if
Yep.
you were to run out right now and suddenly buy up all the Ledaig you could because you were worried about the answer being A, relax, because it's an issue right now. We're yet to see just how big a deal this is. A, Menno.
A. Spot on. Spot on. I think Port Ellen have even confirmed that Diageo have even confirmed that Port Ellen will no longer be distributing peated malt to non-Diageo distilleries in the immediate future. So
They've given notice, haven't they, to so
Mhm.
many? Yep. So that affects Tobermory immediately. In terms of their new production, Tobermory rely on Port Ellen malt, as do many others.
and most of Islay distilleries that are not Diageo. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Question 3. Ullebischt, and my apologies for butchering the name. Ullebischt Distillery is one of the many new distilleries that came into being in 2022, and apart from brewing beer as well as distilling, there's also something special about their location. Where is the new Ullebischt Distillery located? Is it A, it's bringing back distilling to the town of Inverness for the first time since Milburn closed in 1985? Is it B, it's located on Shetland, making it Scotland's northernmost distillery? Or is it C, it will be the first distillery ever on the Isle of Rum, population 30 people?
Well, if it's C, they're going to struggle for staff, right? If it's B, I mean that there was going to be a distillery on Shetland, but of course you're talking about Ullevest and Inverness.
Mhm.
A, my
A,
friend, to follow the crowd once more.
absolutely, it was A. And I think I even have a picture of the new distillery right about here, and it's
That's a
where
good
the
picture
yeah. Mm.
from their
It's
Facebook page.
yeah.
Yeah, terrific.
I think it's even pretty close to where Glenmore used to be. So yeah.
Fantastic. Listen, Inverness is a fabulous town. Anybody in the Highlands that wants to have a wee city stopover, Inverness is the spot to go to. It's a cracking city.
Okay. Question 4. For all things Japanese whiskey, we have Mac from Kanpai Planet, and thanks to him, we know that 2022 Oswald winner Nika from the Barrel is made out of what? Is it A, 3 malts and 1 grain whiskey? Is it B, 2 malts and 4 grain whiskies? Or is it C, over 100 malt and grain whiskies? Hmm.
I watched this video, I think, more than once.
It's a cracking video.
Yep.
This seems to be splitting the crowd a bit.
Well, I'm getting some reassurance from the crowd for my answer.
Hmm.
But I'm not guessing, but I'm going on intuition for this one. I don't
Okay.
know that I would gamble on this. I'll go for A, Menno. 3
Are you
malts
going
and
for
1
A?
grain.
Ooh.
Yep.
Ooh. And stumble he did. There's over 100 malt and grain whiskies that go into Nika from the Barrel.
Oh my goodness. Really?
Yep. I would have guessed it would have been, 2 or 3 malt distilleries and the rest being grain, but apparently there's over 100 malt and grain whiskies that go into that one.
So I haven't even got to the halfway point, and the only thing that was
Oh,
left on my Christmas list, Menno, was
oh,
for
I'm
me
so
to
sorry,
crack.
man.
You did your best. It's down.
Yep.
It's on my shoulders, buddy. It's on my shoulders. I think that a lot of folk. Now that sounds mad, says Bit Whisky with Molly. That wow, didn't know Graham Young, a constant 10 out of 10 scorer, is saying no, says Dave Swift. I think we're all tripping over. We all need to spend a bit more time watching Mac from Kanpai Planet, I think. Terrific stuff.
Well, if there's one thing to take away from that unfortunate slip, then it's indeed watch Max videos. He's doing great stuff. Okay, then the picture
Oh,
question.
sorry.
This is a different take on a picture question. It's actually one of a new book from Dave Broom. And of
Yep.
course, I'm asking you about the title.
Well, I've
So is
got
it
this one.
me too? Is it A, A Guide Through Taste? Is it B, The Amber Road? Or is it C, A Sense of Place?
I don't have this book yet. I should
Ah,
have already bought it. Did you buy it, Menno? Yeah, you have it. You-
st- st- started it earlier this week. Quite enjoying it.
Good.
Wonderful photography as well. Yeah,
Okay, I'm going to answer that it's C, A Sense of Place.
a sense of place, and so does the crowd, and they're absolutely correct. Quickly onwards to question 6, and this might be a bit trickier. Recently, the American Single Malt Whiskey Commission and the TTB released a series of guidelines and rules to define what classifies as American single malt whiskey, and which of these will or has now become an actual rule for American single malts.
Oh,
And as
now
you
we're
can
getting crunchy. This is good.
see, I took my inspiration from a rather excellent piece written on Dramface a while ago. I think it was in October or so. So it was a while ago, but would that have been A, the mash bill has to contain at least 51% malted barley? Is it B, it must be matured in oak casks not exceeding 700 liters? Or C, the new make has to be distilled at no higher than 160 proof?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Okay,
Are you
again,
guessing
I'm
on this
running on
one?
intuition. That did not do me too well last time.
Ah,
So one of these has made it through, but it's still only a paper, a submission, isn't it?
yeah. It should have been done and dusted by the end of this year, but I think they might be running late, and it might be something for early 2023.
Falsgraf is complaining that you're sourcing your material during a period that he wasn't reading Dramface. I'm going
I
to
am
go. I'm going to go with what I feel must be the most obvious, and that is B, the cask, 700-liter cask thing.
well done, indeed. It was B.
So intuition supported me that time and failed me last time.
Well done. So you're for 5 for 6 in,
5 for
Roy?
6.
5
Only
for
one.
6. Okay,
Only one down. Yep.
Okay. Question 7, and it could be a banana skin. Which distillery released its second installment of their cigar malt expression in October? Yours for a very reasonable 195.99 quid. Is it A, Tamdu? Is it B, Tomintoul? Or is it C, Dalmore? The banana
This is
skin, of
not
course,
fair.
being that all three have released
All three of
a
those
cigar
released
malt.
cigar malts. But you're looking specifically for 196 quid release in
Yep,
October. Okay. Would reading Dramface help me on this, Menno? I think it would.
it could and it would, I think,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. This is hellish.
Come
That's
on,
going to be a
Roy.
lot of people.
Beat that 8 out of 10.
Yeah. Okay, I still can. I'm still on for a 9, I suppose. I'm going to go for Tamdu here. Tamdu's cigar malt.
And so are most of the crowd, and they are absolutely correct. Well done. Okay.
The banana skin there is obviously because Dalmore is more famously known for its cigar malt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quickly to question 8. and I put in a bit of a World Cup reference here. Earlier this month, Argentinian distillery La Alanza boarded 2 casks of whiskey on a C-130 Hercules plane to be dropped off at which rather unusual destination for further maturation? Did they A. bring 2 casks to a salt lake in Patagonia? Is it B. Antarctica? Or is it C. an Argentinian weather base in the Andes at over 4,000 meters altitude? So,
Oh,
and this is a bit of an asset question, as probably very few would have heard this news.
yes. Did you discover this news through researching a vPub quiz, or did you discover this news from Whisky?
No. I discovered this news from what's the app called? Scottish Whisky something. Yeah, this little app right here, the Scottish Whisky app.
Okay, I'm going to go with C.
Are you sure?
Yeah, well, it just makes more sense to me. Why go to Antarctica? Why go to Salt Lake in Patagonia? Okay, there are arguments. Damn. I'm going to go for C.
Okay, it was Antarctica. I'm sorry.
Ah.
Uh,
Oh!
it apparently it has to do with some crazy project from some whiskey broker or investor who is determined to have whiskey maturing on all the continents of this planet. So it only made sense to put a few casks and drop them off at Antarctica for whatever reason. Yeah.
More money than sense, I worry. Well, maybe if he's
Yeah.
doing something that we all learn something from, fine, whatever. But my goodness, Antarctica. Here we go. Maybe next year for my bettering. And now I'm hanging on. Now I'm desperately hanging on for an 8 out of 10. Let's go with it, buddy. Go with it.
Okay. Tomatin has released their first ever age-dated Kuboken in 2022, as you well pointed out, but they were also involved in the release of what? Is it A, the oldest vintage bottling of a Japanese whiskey? Is it B, a 40-year-old blended world whiskey? Or is it C, their oldest ever single cask release?
I think I know what you're getting at here, what you're talking about.
I hope so.
Luna Aaron is asking Ross, that's Tom Elmer, how he knew it. So Tom obviously got that Antarctica one right. Terrific. And other people are talking about how it makes sense. Jimmy Legg is already threatening. He's already suggesting that it was.
Is he threatening again?
Yeah, he's threatening again. Don't worry. I think that this is the Shirakawa thing. And this is the 1958 Shirakawa, I think it was, that they had a vatted whiskey that they discovered, and they released 1,500 bottles of it in 2022 at 25 grand a bottle. So it's A I'm going for.
Absolutely.
Yep.
25k a bottle for a 1958 Shirakawa cask. Okay. Then
and the parent company to Tomatin was involved. It was Takara Shuzo. Ass hat time. My goodness.
Ass hat time.
And he's donning the ass hat. Fantastic.
Thanks, Tim, by the way. Okay, hold my beer may well be the unofficial motto for Glen Turret. They recently released a 50-year-old single malt, and for the same price, you could also get what? Give or take 1,000 quid or so. Is it A, 2 bottles of this year's release of Dalmore 40-year-old?
Oh my
Is it
goodness.
B, 40 bottles of the 2022 Ardbeg 25-year-old? Or is it C, 6 bottles of this year's Springbank 30-year-old? Wear your cap with pride.
50-year-old single malt. I'm going to go for... I'm going to get it wrong. Menno, this is going to be a 7 out of 10 tonight. I'm going to go for 2 bottles of Dalmore 40.
Okay, the crowd is all over the place.
Yes, yeah, this asshattery at its epic highest.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that we learned from this asshat question is that
There's expensive and there's
decades-old Scotch whiskey with a brand on it is ridiculous.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, the Springbank 30-year-old is about £3,500, I think, a bottle. The Dalmore 40-year-old is a pitiful £10,000 a bottle. The Ardbeg 25-year-old is about £1,000 a bottle, and the Glenturret 50-year-old retails for £40,000 a bottle.
Oh no! 40 grand. That's the cost of a high-spec car.
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness. There we go. So 7 out of 10 for me, everybody. Who's beating me in the chat tonight? Fantastic. Menno, terrific questions as always. We still can't be friends, of course, but we'll try again in 2023. 7 out of 10 for Ben, Whiskey with Molly. I'm doing okay. But Andrew Pierce has beaten me. Well done, Andrew. Malt Minion Chuck and Jerry Papa Q has beaten me too. Sugar Kitty has also beaten me, along with Ian Bruce and Jimmy Ledaig. Oh, so many people have taken me. Graham Young takes me to the cleaners with a 9 out of 10. Superb. I don't think we're going to finish the year on a 10 out of 10, Menno. Greg's Whiskey Guide is celebrating his 9 out of 10. I'm looking. It's just jumped. It's just jumped. I'm not seeing anybody with a 10. Nope. So close this time, says Greg's Whiskey Guide. Falsgraf saying got the ass hat right, 9 out of 10. Falsgraf joins Greg for 9. Terrific stuff. And Graham Young as well. 9 out of 10 for Hell's Wid. Extremely happy with that. I would be too, Helen, especially getting 2 over on me. And Gordon Fraser is saying, Happy New Year, boss, and all the barflies. Hope you have a wonderful celebration. Work in the morning, signing out. Aye, I've got work in the morning to work at the dentist. MG Rodney saying 7 out of 10. He matches me. Happy New Year, Menno and Aqvavitae. Happy New Year to you, to MG. Fantastic. Pete Ed is saying with these questions about those horribly expensive whiskies, I'm glad I have some wrong Aqvavitae and multi-mission. We're both grateful. That's talking about looking for the silver lining, isn't it, Frank? To celebrate the ones we get wrong because of the abusive pricing. Chris Pollack is saying, have a nice hug, Menno, and a wonderful 2023. Absolutely. Menno, thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for staying up late. If you're about, stay post credits and we can raise a wee quiet glass after things have rolled tonight, buddy. But I'd like to thank you for your support, for your trust, for everything that you brought to us, all the asshattery, all the things that... But I'd like to thank you more than anything for your generosity and your thick skin too.
Thank you.
Menno, my friend, multi-mission, thank you very, very much for giving me a 7 out of 10. On the last vPub. Next year I'll get it.
Absolutely. Sorry, my voice is gone.
Happy New Year when it comes, Menno. Thank you, buddy. Thank you so much. Always.
Cheers.
Stay around, buddy. Fantastic. So there we go. We've done everything that we need to do. I think I've scored through most of the points. I don't think I've missed anything. Have I missed anything? I think I managed to cover most of it tonight. I knew there was a hell of a lot to get through. I hope it didn't feel too rushed, and I hope that there were some interesting things. Remember, I'm not doing anything to encourage people to go out and buy these whiskies. It's not to drive sales. But if you are going to inevitably buy whiskey, I hope that it means that you put your whiskey in a place that it's going to be enjoyed and valued. Jimmy Ledaig has bought me a very generous try to finish up. I threaten to hug you both if we meet in 2023. Cheers, Menno, and Roy, and all the great people here. Jimmy, I would pay you back your super drams in an instant if it was possible, my friend. Maybe it could happen one day. Jimmy Ledaig, slant you for your dram. That is absolutely gorgeous. I'm so grateful for it. Stephen Toth is in. Thank you so much, Stephen, saying happy holidays and happy new year, Roy. To all you barflies, been challenging to catch the lives lately due to the silly season, but enjoying the replays. All the best and warm wishes from Canada, everyone. Stephen, thank you so much, my friend. I hope you finally got that package from me. And Saxo Scott has bought me a dram. Looks like a new name, Saxo Scott. Thank you for sharing this great lineup of whiskies, Roy. I'd love to know, please, which distillery is your winner in terms of visitor experience. Oh, that's a good one. Ardnamurchan would definitely be up there. Lagavulin Warehouse Tour is always up there for me as well. It's tremendous. I've enjoyed tours right across Isla, honestly speaking. That's a tough one to answer. It's a tough one. I need to put some thought into that. I think visitor experience, that whole topic could be a good vPub. It's one that's been brewing for a long time, Saxo Scott for 2023. I think whatever distillery experience you go for, it's very much to do with the tour guide and the person that's on at that particular day, how they're feeling, the mood, the general vibe of the crowd and everything. But my recommendation would be to always kind of upgrade a wee bit so that you do the regular tour, but then you get some extra stuff too. That would be my recommendation. If I was to commit to one, I have always enjoyed my time taking a wee tour around Deanston. Saxo Scott, I hope wherever you visit that you enjoy it. Cheers to you. Gino is in. He's saying Happy New Year to you, Roy and Barflies. Cheers, folks. Thank you, Gino. What a treat to meet you this year. Fantastic. Thanks for buying me a dram. And Jacob at Shikia, it looks like, I hope I've pronounced that well. It looks like Jacob is in Japan, and he's saying, cheers from Japan, Roy. Hope you have a wonderful 2023. Jacob, Shikia-san, straight back to you. Thank you for your wonderful dram. Fraser Thistle is saying, thanks for a great year of vPubs, Roy. Best wishes for 2023 to you and the Barflies. Thank you so much, Fraser, for being part of it. And Ben Whisky with Molly, the Celebrating Beer member, saying, Happy New Year. Thanks for being here, Barflies. Thanks to you too, Ben, for everything that you do and for all the amazing generosity that you've shown buying all the Barfly memberships out there and growing and helping to grow our community. Listen, thanks to everybody. I hope you got something out of the roundup of whiskies that I shared with you tonight. It will be my focus in 2023 to continue to focus on value, to continue to uncover the things that are bringing the best. I don't care whether it comes from my own exploration, whether it comes from yours and you feed back to me when we share it here together. However it works, we need to work together as a community to find where the good stuff is. We need to celebrate it. We need to shout about it so that when somebody picks up a glass of malt whiskey in 2023, they can say, aye, no bad. I think that's something to shoot for. For all of you, for your support in 2022, especially my wonderful, amazing, beautiful patrons, the reason I can exist and hold my head up with dignity and have a job doing this is because of what you do for me. And I'll continue to do the very best I can for you in 2023 based on your support. Thank you all so much. For all you beautiful whiskey folk and dedicated barflies that turn up week in, week out, whether you're catching it live here in the lounge or watching it on the replay, thank you so much. I will continue to try and bring good content or the best content I'm capable of in 2023. But in the meantime, I'll raise this wee glass and say thank you all. Hope your new year is wonderful. And I look forward to welcoming you back here on the 12th of January. No vPub on the 5th. I'm taking a wee break. I know that's selfish. But it means I'll be ready to welcome you back on the 12th. You're all very dearly loved. Happy New Year when it comes, folks. Slanchiva. Cheers.